time it is? It's time for the #1 podcast regarding Star Citizen Friday nights at 10 p.m. CST. That's right, it's time for the SpaceBro show. And tonight we're going to have some awesome special guests with us, of course. The one, the only, Mr. Toy Grubbin's here. He's back from his trip. He's ready to hang out, all that good stuff. And we have a special guest tonight. UberNerd's here, hanging out with us, doing his thing. There we go. And we're going to jump right into it, guys. We got a lot to talk about and a lot of good things we want to do. So let's do it right now. So, gentlemen, hopefully all my audio works and everything works good. Nothing's broken here. How are you guys doing?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Good.
Well, then we can hear you.
I hear you.
Perfect. All right. So what's going on, guys? How's everybody doing this evening?
You know.
Good.
Settling back in after my trip. So.
Yeah. So, Toy, you've been driving all day. And all that stuff. So he's been enjoying the road, getting prepped for TwitchCon drives, right? So it's like your warm up. It's your warm up, so you can drive us all from Vegas to out there in nowhere land. Oh yes, that'll be fun. But we'll get more into that. And UberNerd, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. It's good to have you. Why don't you tell everybody? Yeah, we always try to catch a show when I can. It's like everybody streams at once. It's a melting pot. But UberNerd is a really, 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 really fun streamer to watch, guys. So you really need to check him out. He adds a little bit of comedy element, as you know, as all the Space Bros always appreciate, to his shows. But he also dives in deep and he makes sure he communicates correctly what's going on with the game and tries to break it down. And I love your breakdowns, how you go through all the stuff. You know, similar to what we do, and you break down to people what's going on, what that means in the bigger picture of things and all that, but you still add a fun twist to it. So I'm really glad we were able to get you on the show tonight. So that's really good.
I just try to break it down in the best way that I know how, and in spite of the fact that I'm always super hyped, I blame it on the caffeine.
There you go. Caffeine does help, but the hype and the tangibility, taste in our mouths of 3.0 is so close all the time. But we do try to downplay it a little bit, so that way we don't set too high expectations. But we're super hyped people. We're so hyped about this. We want this build really bad. So and ATVs don't help with the hype reduction. They blow me up.
I want it so bad that I'm pretty sure I had a dream about it the other night.
Yep. I don't know. I just keep thinking. I'm like, all right, what do I have as fillers? What do I have as fillers till it happens? Because I know there's like other games and stuff. I'm like, I can fill with this, or I could play some of this, and because I just don't want to overdo it. But I can't wait. But like traditionally what we do at the beginning and the end of the podcast, UberNerd, why don't you tell them where people can find you, when you usually stream, all that stuff, if there's anything else you play, all that stuff. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you and give the spiel?
All right. Well, I claim to be a variety streamer, and the only variety that you'll find on my stream are the tons of voices that come out of my insane mind. I have played other games in the past, but they were not fun, at least not while I was streaming them. So, there's that. I stream mostly Star Citizen, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Saturday. And then if I get a wild hair, I'll stream a little bit on Sunday evening. So
there you go. That's a robust schedule there you got.
It is a robust schedule, but as a single parent, I sit there and stream when my kid's at school, and then she goes out and plays on Saturday morning, and I can stream then.
There you go.
And then, so
it works out.
Usually I'll start my streaming after 5 p.m., so that's after dinner on Sunday, and so
nice. Well, that's good. Well, we'll be sure to keep trying to tune in and all that stuff. Oh, what?
My name. That's it. If you just type that in after, twitch.tv/that name, you'll find my channel.
There you go.
Uber_nerd.
Yep. We also have it linked in there under the guest command, guys, so you can just click on it and give the man a follow, because if you want to win the $10 gift card that we're going to be giving away later tonight, you are going to have to follow all the strummers here on the show. And if you don't get the gift card. So just make sure you do that. It's a simple click away. It's all your chances.
All right. If you don't, We'll be holding the gnome hostage.
That's true. It's very true. All right, so man, a lot of stuff happened this week. There's all kinds of stuff. We had. It felt really dry, but by Wednesday, that was a great Bug Smashers. There were several things I liked about Bug Smashers. I'll start with those. That way, Toy can talk about things he hated. Because we know he's going to bring the salt into the stream. That's just the way it goes. I love the fact we got a really in-depth look at the Cutlass. Even though it was like indiscriminate, we got to look at the new Cutlass, the whole back end, and I got a better scale and size comparison and just the idea of how it worked, not only in Bug Smashers, but ATV as well. But we got to see a problem that Mark fixed that didn't take 5 seconds. Because I have a lot of feedback from the community that always thinks they don't realize that when Mark works on these things, it doesn't take 5 minutes to fix a problem. Usually, it's something he's worked all the way through, and he's just recreating the issue to show you how he fixed it in a matter of moments, right? It could have been something that took several days. And I really love the fact that they did the whole disco with the whole SpongeBob reference there, the 2 really painful days later thing, and all the cuts. Yeah. That was really good. It was really good.
2 days later.
Yeah. And then Mark basically looked like he was beat up. He was like, it doesn't work now? You can tell it stacked up on him. But it was really good.
Yeah,
I thought it was great Bug Smashers. What were your guys' takeaways from it? We'll start with UberNerd. What did you think about the Bug Smashers? What did you think it showed the community? What were the positives or negatives about it?
Well, I like to be able to look at the code, understand all the, you can see if you've watched all the Bug Smashers from the beginning until now, when he clicks on there and he starts typing in the keyword, you'll look at the list that pops down and you'll just see how much bigger it is now than it was when they started. You'll also see that he's a lot more fluid with his coding than he was back when they were still just trying to figure out what exactly they were going to do or how exactly they were going to put these things together. It's a lot smoother. I have a lot more confidence in their understanding of where things are supposed to go, even though, of course, they are trying a brand new thing, which is the ray tracing from the system. Then the ray tracing gets transferred to the planet, and then the ray tracing gets transferred into a vehicle or building, right? So it's you're always going into these, what they were calling zones, or if you want to call them object containers, you can call them object containers. But that's something that's really impressive. If anybody's ever done coding before, they'll understand just how amazing that is. So.
Yeah, and I think with the zones and the container system stuff, I always liked it when it was the original aspect and definition. They always called it zones, because the scale of some of these things are so large. And he's ready to grind the salt, I see. But the zones of these things are so large, and even something Toy alluded to a few SpaceBro shows ago, where we looked at the grid system, where they were showing the mesh and stuff like that, and how big it was and all that. I think people don't really. Object containers doesn't clearly represent how big and scalable these containers are, whether it be a whole area of a planet down to a small ship. So it's zones is usually what I like to call them, but there's so many definitions of it. But let's get over to Toy, and Toy can give his saltiness, so that way we can see if we can rebut it.
Yeah, it was such an up and down week because, one of the best ATVs, one of the worst Bug Smashers, because it made me it made my stomach get knots, because I've been looking forward to 3.0, and they're polishing and they're polishing and they're polishing. That's all you hear is they're polishing it. It's going to be the smoothest, the best. And then
polish it too much, the skin falls off, so you don't want to do that.
Yeah. And then you watch those Bug Smashers, and he can't even get in and out of a ship. And I'm like, oh no. I mean, even the character. Let's just stop for the container for a moment and just watch the character model come in and out of the ship. Looks wonky. He gets stuck in nothing coming in and out of the ship, and then on top of it, the box. I mean, I love the way the box looks and works, picking up. Where you could set it down and the way you could set it down. Great, good system. But yeah, I thought they would be so much farther along with this cargo system, and it just looks so bad in Bug Smashers.
Well, what we were watching was the translation from the outside ray tracing environment to the inside ray tracing environment, and that tilt that you saw the character do was him reorienting to the new ray tracing environment. All they need to do is to code past that translation bit, which I think they understand what's going on. So that's an issue. Once that's solved, we won't see that. And this is another thing that I think that they're really working on, getting down to the final nitty gritty. Now, we know that if you're already in that inside ray trace environment with the boxes, they'll be fine. It's that threshold that they were working on. So, I mean, I understand your misgivings and the fear, and it's because we've had this kind of thing happen in the past, and it's been something that had to either be pushed out or delayed to a great degree. So I get it. It makes it's kind of that, oh my God, I hope they can get it done, but we don't really know.
Well, and this is the point I'd like to point out, is like, I see the improvement in that, I know you see the wonkiness, but I see the improvement. I mean, think how long we've had this issue with the object containers. Think of the Freelancer when we first had it, and we go to Korea, and we'd have a gunfight, and the guy inside the back of the Freelancer and the guy on the landing pad couldn't even shoot each other because our bullets wouldn't go through that environment, and we'd disappear. If you pulled anything towards or inside an air container, like our Merlins, when we set them inside the Freelancers, or not the Freelancers, the Starfarers, they would disappear for everybody else except for the pilot. And that's just because they're the same thing.
The Big Benny's machine movement was smoother. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you remember getting into the Freelancer where every time, if you got out or in the wrong angle, you die? Yeah,
you just die instantly. It's
I remember when the Connies first went in, you couldn't even take the elevator up. You take one step and fall right out of the ship.
Yeah, you just fall off the elevator pad and fall through the floor of it. But yeah, or the balloons, right? When the Starfarers first came in, they were all helium balloons, apparently, and every ship you'd spawn in the pad would float away.
I remember that.
That was like, it's all full of balloon Starfarers and Hornets and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I feel like specifically with that threshold type of situation, we saw some of the characters reorienting. I'm just glad they're persistent in both zones to the camera. Now, they both exist there, but now you can actually, with the ray tracing and everything else, you can see them, and they just need, like he said, tighten up a little bit of the transition elements and stuff like that, and I think that they'll be okay. If I can get in and out with carrying anything, if I can get in and out like what they showed with loading the Dragonflies or Noxes into the Cutlass without it disappearing, then I think they've made significant improvement.
But see, what they also didn't show, they showed you them driving a Nox in and dropping it off, right? But they didn't show you actually locking it to the pad either. And supposedly that's supposed to be done in 3.0.
Well, I think it is, because if you look at when they drive it in there, it highlights which zone you want to go to on the left or right for a landing area.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lock it in like, and the one thing I was disappointed in was it didn't lock it in like it does on a landing pad, right? Where it orients you to the beacon, brings you across it, and then locks you in a 90-degree angle, right? It's not like sideways or anything. You come in, it orients, and it comes straight down. I was expecting the Nox to go into the Cutlass and then orient to exactly perpendicular, not at an angle, and that's the only thing I was I would think it would do that, but I mean, maybe that's just not their plan right now or anything, because otherwise, if you have them angled but within those zones, it kind of can screw up your cargo space still. I kind of wanted them...
Well, remember what they said, and I believe they said it today on Happy Hour. They were talking about that in terms of you can put an irregular shaped piece of cargo in cargo space and not stack it properly, and you'll lose space if you don't stack your cargo properly, which is why they're starting with the small boxes, the handheld...
but I think if you're in that square, it's locked in. I don't think it's like a magnet like sucks down to the thing. I think as long as you pull that Nox in there into that square, it's locked to the ground. I don't think it's going to like fly around your ship. But if you just put it in, because that's what he was thinking about with the landing areas and stuff like that. I think if you just pulled it in straight and set it between those two squares, it'd be loose cargo.
But what I'm getting at, though, is, on these ATVs they've been showing in the past, they show all these perfectly stacked boxes in a perfect square inside the lockable area, basically.
Yes.
Right.
So they pull the Nox in sideways and park it sideways. Okay, that's fine if it locks it into position that way, but say you got a whole bunch of cargo. Are you going to be sitting there for 4 hours trying to get this box lined up exactly perfect on the back corner, and that way every single box is going to fit in that grid perfectly? You know what I mean? There needs to be a better way to.
If you want to be maximum efficient with it, they said that would be you could orient your cargo, restack, and do all that stuff to make it that way. But I think there is another mechanism just to get it in.
I think they have a snap-to mechanism too, don't
they do, but
kind of.
I mean, remember them saying something last week.
That little blue box, the little holographic image, right? You can position that, and if you're positioning it in the right, I mean, you could probably be on the opposite side of the yellow square that indicates where your cargo can be locked down. So you could be on the opposite side, move it as close as you could, just fill the corners at first, and then stack everything else according to that, because it'll snap to the other pieces of cargo, right?
Yeah, I believe so. But I also remember, I don't remember if it was this week or last week, they said something about when you redistribute the mass inside your cargo area, you could actually hand move stuff around because it might make the ship fly different or react differently to different types of load things. So some people might want to redistribute cargo differently, but they didn't really go into the whole metric of that. But that would have to be done manually as far as the auto stuff. You just kind of, it goes in and it snaps in there. So I think you're going to have the choice whether you want to be tedious and stack each individual box in many cases if you're buying or selling something, or if you're going to have to hand load it. But on salvage situations, you're going to have to hand load it. There's no other situation you can do that.
I just hope that eventually there's some kind of system.
Throw the.
Am I robot?
No, you started to break up there. Now you're clean again. Nope, now you're on again.
Yeah, he went robotic. And then
sorry, that's much better.
That's okay.
All right, so what I'm hoping is eventually you can hurry up and throw your boxes in there, and then go to your terminal and use some kind of auto sorter that kind of auto sorts it between the two pads to even it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't have to sit there and tediously stack them perfectly to make sure you're within the grid. So I hope they add that mechanic. It's just I didn't see it.
I think it still snaps like what UberNerd was saying. I think it still snaps into that grid if you're in that area, and it won't be as bad as we think it will. But it depends how much they smooth. We have the video up now from Bug Smashers. It depends how smooth they're able to make this sequence. I mean, because that's really the whole thing. If it's jinky and it takes a while and you have to load each box and it's flipping in and out and all this stuff, it's going to be a problem. But the overall goal is to make it as smooth a process as they can, but still be. I think they're just trying to get a head nod to the people who want RP and to be able to hand load and have that customization and have some sort of benefit from hand loading, as well as other people who just want to shit and get, and I just want to get my stuff in my ship and go. But they still want to make it both ways, I think.
I think what I understood from what they were talking about is that if you hand load it and you hand position all your crates and your boxes, you'll be able to get a far more efficient use of your space than if you just trust the computer or like if you just tell the right now it's going to be auto positioned in your cargo, but eventually it'll be NPCs loading it for you. But it won't be as efficient as you do. So there may be like they may have an oblong box that carries a bunch of rifles or something, and there may be empty space below it, and they won't go and they won't put the right boxes in the right order to create the most efficient use of space.
And I think that'll probably even be more true when they have the different size containers, and then we're doing salvaging. Right now, it might not really matter because they're all the exact same box. They're all you know what I mean? They're all the exact same size cubes. We're getting in 3.0, but eventually we're going to get everything from different shape containers to different, size containers and SU containers and stuff. So I think that it's going to make a bigger difference then, because otherwise they're just going to flat load it, boom, that's it. But let's say you pick up cargo, you come across a wreck, and they have some different shaped boxes. You might have to redistribute to accommodate that, or it won't just auto load it for you. It's like I'll have to move these boxes aside a ship and do all that.
What Toy was saying, I was thinking about that as well, the position of the Nox, right? But what I was thinking is you get in there, you get off the bike, you go over to the panel that is the cargo container or the cargo panel, and you just push a button and it automatically straightens it and locks it down.
That would be awesome. That would be great. I didn't see that.
Would make sense.
Yeah, but that would make sense.
That's because he just got off the bike and then they clipped to it.
Or even better, if you push the button and it reorients it for exiting, right? If you could, if it had the room to orient for nose out, that would be cool too. So
yeah, that would be cool.
Like if you say you just go to the panel and then it gives you like that holographic overlay, and then you choose how you want to finally set it, just like a box, right? Do you want to set it backwards, nose out? Do you want to square it up the way it is? How do you want to put it? And then it reorients based on that. I would be totally cool with that too. So
that would be cool.
Yeah,
you might not be able to do it if you already have enough cargo
exactly.
in there that it won't have room to spin.
Yeah,
you might have to just accept your position in there.
That's very true.
You know, and if they do this, you know, when they get to eventually using the AI to load this stuff, I think it would be awesome, because you could have like guys that are stupid loading that just go in there and throw it anywhere. And once the cargo pad is full, you know, there's no more room to put any more. And then you get AI that's better at stacking boxes, and they can actually stack it a lot better. They could, I mean, that could be a whole thing in itself right there. You get, that guy, you know, that loaded my cargo ship's an idiot. And, you know, of course, he's an idiot AI. And then you got a smart one. Oh, well, I got
That's
Rodrigo
true.
over here that stacked it perfectly in my ship.
Do you want the UPS guy, or do you want your own personal like shipping manager that handles all the loading?
I think it would be awesome. I mean, that could be a whole thing right there.
You know, they were talking about, this is something that made me very excited about the whole idea of loading and unloading cargo. They were talking about how you could create a contract for players, right? So you could actually contract that either would be accepted by AI or by other players to load or unload your cargo for you. And if a player got really good at it and enjoyed that kind of thing, and there are players out there who would really love that kind of gameplay, they could be a longshoreman at some port loading and unloading ships and making their money that way.
That's true. That's very true.
So that kind of gameplay really excites me. The fact that we as players can make contracts for other players, and it's a binding contract, you know, and if I load your ship within a certain amount of time, I earn that contract, and I don't even have to have my own ship to earn money.
And it's going to be really interesting because we used to talk about this in EVE Online too, these player-to-player contracts, and they never developed an EVE, a binding system, to where we could both say specific lines in there and have it locked in based on the system. It was basically a handshake where I would write up the document, you would accept it, and I would say yes, he did it, or no, he did not. You know what I mean? In order to do it. But there's so much trolling you can do with that, and there's so much like ways to break that. To have a game system be able to authenticate you completed the actual task would be much easier, but also sometimes very difficult to do depending on what the task is. So
it could be easy. I mean, you could make it just like a 50% deposit, 50% upon completion, and
and I hope they have that. That will help our organization a lot.
Well, for example, for like bounties, if you put a bounty out on somebody and somebody goes and collects that bounty, the advent of their either capture or death would precipitate the payment.
Yep.
And it would be controlled by the game, not by you. You would agree to the contract. I would agree to the contract. Once I finished the contract, the game would pay me. You would have to put up the, what do they call that? The escrow, right?
Exactly. But the irony in that is that was the major problem they had in EVE, because what people would do is they would troll people, get a huge bounty put upon themselves, then they'd have a buddy come over and kill them, and they'd collect the bounty and split it.
But who would make the bounties?
The bounties were made by a player who got really pissed off and was trolled by the other people. And so he would put all this money, like say he put $1 billion ISK that was in EVE on a character, and then these guys would either wear him as a pride tag of joy, saying, "No, I'm a $1 billion bounty pirate. Look at me," you know. Or somebody else they'd have, even in their case in EVE, they'd have an alt kill them, just their own alt, so therefore they'd just collect the bounty on themselves, and then. But it's all a matter. It's all whether it's worth it based on the repercussions of death in the system, you know. So it's like, if dying is like horrendously a big, you know, niche on your thing, then that's going to be kind of more avoidable. But if you have a huge bounty on yourself stacked up from all these multiple little players, and then it doesn't, and say it's like $1 billion UEC, well, I'll take a rep hit for that, you know. I mean, it's one of those things. You just see how high the bounty is. So they'd have to work the system. I would like to see it where it was, and I hate to use this term because a lot of people hate it, but it would be UEC bound to the receiving party. So, like, say if you if you collected the bounty as a bounty hunter, it wasn't cash that you could give to anybody else. It would be bound to you as the collector. You could only spend it. I couldn't collect it and then give it to an alt. I couldn't collect it and give it to my buddy. I'd have to collect it and it'd be bound to me. So that way it makes it a little bit more convoluted. Now, I understand why that's bad, because then it kind of makes your capital, like, say, in my organization, if we wanted to collect a bounty, whoever got the kill would be the one who gets the money, and there's no way to distribute it among the team of bounty hunters. But it also prevents a lot of fraudulent gameplay where people are just trying to collect their own bounties and there's no repercussions and they're just collecting cash.
Well, since that's something that I think is known, I'm hoping that at least moderators in the game might have a better understanding. And then there are people like us that do play the games that understand these things as well. So there's going to be a lot of policing in the game of people who are well-versed.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, like what was said in chat there by Thrace. He's talking about, so it's bounty for credit. So you get credits that, and it being credit on the character that received it, or whoever accepted the contract, they would receive it. And I guess if you accepted the contract as an organization or a team, then maybe that would work, because then that bounty money would go to your team or your org for collecting it as opposed to the individual player. So that would be a good workaround too.
Okay, and they also could do something like work into, maybe the advocacy would do random audits on, are your bounties legitimate?
Yes.
They could do random audits, and so people who could get caught actually cheating in the game, if they got caught, you lose your account.
Yep.
Sorry. If you're cheating the game, if you're using some sort of exploit, and you won't know, we won't just, we won't audit you based on other person's claim unless it's like 7 or 8 people that are unaffiliated with each other. But the audits will be a random thing done by the moderators from behind the scenes. And that could be, but it could be an in-game thing as well that, okay, so you guys are putting up bounties. The advocacy is going to come do an audit. So they'll have the in-game.
It'll be interesting to see how the bounty system works. I'd love it to work kind of like, what's the name of that show? They did the space show, not Dark Matter, the other one where they had the
Killjoys.
Killjoys. I'd love to see that where you had to accept the warrant. You could have multiple people accept the warrant, but it was like that was a primary mission for them, and that actually built the rep up to what level they could accept of bounties. So that way, say you made an alt, right, to kill yourself to collect your own bounty and cheat the system. Well, you couldn't do that, because if it wasn't a renowned bounty hunter, they couldn't accept like $1 billion UEC bounty because they weren't of the level to do that.
Well, exactly. Cool. That's kind of actually reputation. I think the reputation system will resolve a lot of that, because I don't believe that when you go in, like, this is another thing. People are complaining about big ships being in the game, and oh my God, this person's going to be in their Idris, and if they can buy enough UEC over the years, and when they start, they can run it. And I'm like, they won't be able to get a job. They will not be able to get a job that would pay for the Idris, because they won't have the reputation high enough to be able to get that job.
And Ben even said
you are going to have to. 2 days later.
2 days later. I love that. And I love this look on Mark's face when it comes back. Look at him. That's just going to freeze it there. It's great. It's like, welcome to Star Citizen development.
So, but that's what I think is going to resolve a lot of issues that a lot of people are worried about, is the reputation system. You're not going to be able to take your Hull E out and get a job right as the game goes live. You're not going to be able to do a lot of things, because you are going to have to build up reputation in order to get to that point.
Yeah.
Now, if that person took a year on both of his characters just to get them reputation enough to do what you're saying,
then more power.
Worth of work,
then more power to him. At that point, because he had to work so hard to do that. It's by that point, it's whatever. But
reputation is going to require that kind of thing be.
And I would love to see that, because then if you have an advocacy, or you have the law or whatever is like the one issuing these warrants and bounties and managing and keeping those funds in escrow and then distributing them out, that would be able to enforce the reputation system. So therefore they could actually make a tier system for what kind of bounties you're accepted to take on and what ones you're not. So that would mitigate a lot of that.
So as far as I know right now, the reputation system is basically most of the time you're doing jobs for NPCs.
Correct.
And that's where your reputation goes up. But what if they had kind of how Uber drivers get I would like to have something like that in the game where the customer and the person doing the job could both rate each other.
And I hope they do, but I've been talking about this with my organization for a while. We're talking about making a sort of Angie's List for out-of-game third-party application where citizens could rate each other, so that way it would not only help prevent some trolling, but you'd see people that are more reputable, because it'd be, how was this client? How was this actual person performing the task? And if like this guy steals my shit or whatever, you'd have that over time, a built up reputation system, so that way people could see that, and I think that would be great.
But back to the what we were talking about with the cargo, this all takes it back to there.
Yeah, exactly.
As like one of the things that I really am excited about is being able to create contracts to hire whether it is an NPC or another player. And I would like to be able to, if that player does a really good job for me and I'm very happy with their work, I'd like to give them a high mark, right? To help their reputation. And maybe the reputations that you get with NPCs and the reputations that you get with players will be a separate thing.
Maybe so, but I would like to see
then you might have people front loading their reputation with their org so that they can get jobs with NPCs. And I would like to see there be maybe 2 separate reputation systems, similar in nature, but they wouldn't have crossover, so you couldn't game the system and get high reputation by everybody in your org or your affiliate orgs all upvoting your one character to get the high job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would like to see the NPC one impact the player one, but maybe not the player one impact the NPC one. So if you do a lot of good jobs for the NPCs, then maybe it does give you a good rep towards what the players could see.
Oh, sure. But I would like,
so that way, if you I've done tons of NPC ones that are successful, blah, blah, blah. That's great. And if that guy's trying to grind up NPC ones just to scam me, then whatever. But it not allow, like you said, the converse where the player boosts them up and did all that, because I think that would be kind of weird and tricky. But even if they could, if it's incremental, it doesn't matter. It's not like I can give you more rep than an NPC completing it, and the contract would actually have to be verifiably done, which means I had to pay a fee and do all that stuff. You would have to do the work. I'd love to see subsumption go so deep, because the way that Tony C is designing this AI and stuff, to where there be some cases where I'd rather have an NPC deliver the cargo, because maybe he's like a super duper transporter and he's got like an armed escort all the time, something that I know many players in the beginning of the game can't afford. And maybe it's like, players think they're just going to walk over NPCs. I've seen them turn the AI up on the NPCs before, and it's not pretty. They're pretty badass in this game, so I don't know. I think that there might be instances where it's like you rather have an NPC do it, because they're going to kick the shit out of players if they try to take your stuff. So that would be good. That would be definitely good. But yeah, overall, I mean, and here we go through the successful part of this, where he's actually able to go in here and actually put the crate down, and you'll see that little thing where Toy talks about where he kind of hicks to the right, and then he reorients there. Okay,
that's where that's basically the he's orienting to the new internal ray tracing in that object container or that zone. And all they have to do is just make that, and it may be that was something that happened due to the fact that he had the debug on at the time, but it
could be.
They knew that, we don't. So I'm pretty sure that in of itself was not a big one. They're like, oh, that's another bug, we can fix that. So.
Well, just remember too that they're not constantly updating. That's the thing about this new net code. They're not constantly updating every single second. So the position change from going from the, like you said, the planet grid to the ship grid, you want that change to be instantaneous. But if that update isn't happening quick enough, that could cause that issue that we just saw.
Yeah, but a lot of things like what Uber's talking about is like it's really different when you're in the debug or editor mode than where you would be in the actual game. We'll have to just wait and see if we see those similar issues. I'm sure. I mean, obviously he's aware of it. He just showed it to like 46,000 people who viewed it. So I think that they'll be working on that for sure.
Yeah. Well, when they show us, they try to be open as they can about it. When they show us stuff like that, I think they're at that point where they're very confident that those things are going to be fixed. So
yeah, I think so too. I would agree.
I have faith. It's just,
I understand your disappointment though. At the same time, your vision of what you thought it would be was a little bit different than what you saw in that instance of it.
I just thought it would be smoother.
Yeah,
a lot smoother for as long as they're taken. So
yeah. There's certain things of it that can go either way on that. Real quick, guys, in chat, I would like to remind you, retweet the channel, please. Make sure we get some more bros in there hanging out and all that stuff. Each retweet is worth 100 bro bucks to your channel currency, so that's all good for everyone. And additionally, we do have a raffle going on right now through the end of the show, where we're giving away a $10 Star Citizen gift card. All you have to do is type !SpaceBro inside there. That is singular, SpaceBro. And again, there, you do also have to follow each one of the casters here in the show. You have to make sure you're following not only my channel, obviously, UberNerd and Toy as well. So make sure you're following everybody and you have all the channels locked down like that. And then after the show's over, we will be doing the SpaceBro after show, where I'll be hanging out and we'll be playing some of this, maybe some of that, maybe some PUBG, whatever goes splat. We'll be doing something. It'll be fun. Trust me. So, after Bug Smashers, we got into the beautiful and sensuous Around the Verse. So, we'll go through some of this. This, again, if you just read the titles on some of these, you'd be like, meh. But after them having the teasers of the derelict ships and all that stuff, I was really super excited by some of the stuff we've seen. And I think they're going to show the little during the studio.
They hit their milestone.
Yeah, they hit their milestone.
That's good news, right?
It's a rarity sometimes, and not to talk bad about CIG, but just because of the complexity of what they're talking about. Here's the Nox going into the landing area, the Cutlass there that we were talking about. It looks a little dark on the screen, but it's there. Yeah, and you see how it's kind of angled. But I agree. I think having some sort of panel or something oriented, but it's just angled, but it's still within the confines of the square. So,
I think it was locked down, but at an angle.
Yeah, it seems that way. Which, I mean, I could live with. I could live with. I'm not going to say, don't do it.
If you could go to the cargo, that's what I was saying. If you could go to, after you lock it down like that, just go to the cargo management screen, and if there's nothing else in its way, you just push the button and it goes boop, and it, and I don't think that there would be any problem for that. But see how he's placing in that picture there, the top corner, how he's placing cargo. You could just loosely place it, but I think you need to place it all within. So, you need to place it all within the cargo zone, the yellow square. Then you go to the cargo manager, and then you push the button, and it will automatically quickly snap to it as long as it's close enough. That's kind of what my thought is. So you'll have to stack it. Then you go click, and it'll show
the little highlight there, and you can see he doesn't even have to set them. See how it snaps in, but he could offset stack them. It doesn't have to be box to box. You could do a pyramid. Right. You could do several different things where you stagger them in.
You could make box forts.
Yeah, you could.
We talked about that last week.
We were talking about wouldn't it be great to hide inside the box fort, and you would be like the what you call it, the stowaway, getting ready to take over a ship. You're like,
you could put a sign on it saying "No girls allowed." Or
there
something.
You go. Yeah, make your own clubhouse.
He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be great. But no, we see a lot of that stuff. And then here they showed the trading console, which I was super excited about. This looks so good.
Yeah.
It's very fluid. It doesn't have to be super
Did you see how
shiny.
much space is in the that they show there?
Yes.
How many SCUs are in the Cutlass Black?
Yep. I did. Now
6,200 seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot. I don't know where the Freelancer's at on that spectrum. I can't remember because you can't really go by the stats page, right? Because it's
because
it's totally wrong.
They changed them though. Isn't an SEU now the box you can carry, that single box you can carry?
Yeah, it used to be originally. I mean, they've changed the SEU so many times. Originally, it was something like, I thought, like a 3 foot by 3 foot. Now they've made it
1 meter by 1 meter.
Yeah, now they've made it like, just that. I don't know exactly what the distance is, but it's more like a foot, maybe a foot and a half by a foot and a half or something like that. Something you carry right in front of you, and that brings up a lot of questions for me with the Dragonfly's cargo, because in like a quarter of an SCU and all this stuff. So it's going to be interesting to have tangible visual space taken up now, because it's always been this theoretical number that we've like heard here, but we didn't really have tangible space. We'd see these massive ships that would, this would hold so many thousand SCU. But now that we see the actual box, I wonder how much that's going to change the dynamics across all the ships. Like, what can it actually hold SCU-wise? What is the real number? And it'll be interesting to see between that and then Turbulent's continued update of the website to see as we get actual stats, maybe we'll be able to kind of plan better. And that's been a long time coming. You guys
think the stats page will come out before 3.0 goes live?
No. I wish it would.
I've been saying since the beginning, what they need to do is they need to tie the stats page on the website to the actual ship stats in their little, when they go in there and create the ship, they have their checklist or whatever, right?
Right.
It should be tied to that. So if they expand the grid on the ship to so many more, it automatically updates the website.
I think they have the capability to do that. I think the reason is a purposeful omission. And the reason is because everything up to now has been such a state of flux within statistics and stats and the moving things around and changing all this stuff. I mean, for God's sake, they just got done changing the flight model to where they think it's going to be now. It still could change, right? But we think at this stage we know where the flight model is for space. They're still going to go through a cycle of what's the flight model like in atmosphere, I mean, because I know they're working on that, but it could be a whole different ball game. Then you have different gravities impacting that. Now that they have a standardized SCU, Mark, you would think they'd start flushing out what it's going to be in all the ships for that stat. I would love to see it, because the biggest challenge we have as gamers, as supporters of Star Citizen, is when a new player comes to me and they say, hey, I'm making a decision between A ship and B ship. When they come to trade, transport, cargo, all these things, I don't know what to tell them, really. I mean, it's like I can give them generalizations, but without proper statistics and lineup, I mean, it's a hard comparison when they're talking about something like Cutlass versus like Freelancer, or Freelancer versus like Hull A, and some of these things. I'm like, well, this should be bigger than this, but I can't tell you statistically by exactly how much, because this is a hauler, this is not a hauler, but this over here is like an in-between, like multi-mesh hauler, so it's, you got to ask the person, what do you want to do with the ship? And then have them understand it's all in a state of flux still. So some things will be close to that capability, but something's going to still be better than the other. And you can really only base it on looks and weapon loadout now. Yeah,
the
go ahead.
perfect example is the Cutlass.
Yes.
I mean, my God, the difference in size between the old Cutlass and the new Cutlass. I was showing from the stream, I was showing the side-by-side comparisons. I went into my hangar, got out the Cutlass Black, and I was looking at both, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's like maybe 2 times or 3 times as much space in there now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But also, on that other hand, you have the Caterpillar, which has modular storage components. So right now it has what, 5?
5 is, and they spoke about that today. I guess there was a misspoke where somebody said 15 on the ATV, and is like, no, it's in Disco corrected. It is 5.
It will never change from 5, but you can change out which modules are in.
And you might be able to have less. They said you might be able to reduce it down at some point, but it will never have more than 5.
Somebody took a
snub-nosed Caterpillar.
There you go. Like,
somebody took a picture of the Caterpillar and added 15 modules on it.
I saw that on Twitch.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was great. Man. It's like the most phallic ship you could have in the game, and it's fully extendable.
I thought of it like a freight train rather than, I mean, I thought, well, the idea seems, but then again, I think the Hull E is more like the container ship.
Yeah.
And then the Caterpillar is more like a actually, when I was looking at the caterpillar, I was going through there and I was like, I know where I recognize the shape language that they got in here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the the tramp steamer of the Star Citizen verse.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Caterpillar dong slider confirmed. Yes, Bear. That's it. You can enlarge it with the slider. No, they the one thing that brings up a great idea too for me, like when you said like a freight train, I was like, well, maybe you could take 2 command modules and extend it, right? You know, they run freight trains in the front and back of like long,
right?
Like ones that you like just AI'd a bunch of the command modules on the Caterpillar, and you could stretch it out 15 or 20 long because they are all. It'd be such a cluster. Snap in half somewhere along.
It would have to be space-based only, though. You couldn't land that.
Well, the back half of the Caterpillar is one big component, and then all the cargo modules are on the front, so it wouldn't. You couldn't just add another.
No, it only work.
To it.
Yeah, it would only work if it was more like the command modules on the side and it locked sideways onto it, and it didn't have that rear module. But you're right. But I'm still excited to hopefully some of those modules will be changed out. And they'll be able to leave them in space. Like they talked about, maybe say you found a salvage area, you could take one piece of the Caterpillar off and you could leave it there for the salvagers to kind of as a workstation, and then you could move the other components around and still operate the overall unit without all the components on it. That would be cool. So hopefully they'll still have that in the plane. Because otherwise, making it modular and just being able to change out the units, that's cool. But I'd still like to be able to separate it, kind of like what they plan with the Crucible, right? Where that's a mobile workstation attached onto the Crucible itself for the repair ship, because that bay is supposed to be able to detach and sit somewhere while you can still take the Crucible and work on a larger vessel or something anyway.
The problem with the Caterpillar modules, though, is because all that's got to tie into your oxygen system and your power, which is all going to be back in the command module. You're not the command module, but the main whole of the ship.
You would think they would maybe they just had some limited power to each one, like, you know what I mean, or something, something like that.
Well, no, remember, there is a power module, an extra module that you can add in with power.
That's true.
So if there is that extra module, you just every 5, you just put in a power and life support module, and then do another 5.
There you go.
What you guys are talking about is making your own space station out of Caterpillar modules.
Well, yeah, like a temporary one, not necessarily. Like I'm thinking, you come to a huge battle zone, like post fight, right? And you don't have a reclaimer, right? You got the hand tool guys that are going to start stripping down components as some of the bigger vessels. Maybe you could drop a couple units of the Caterpillar out there as still salvage units, and your guys could EVA and bring some of that stuff from different areas of the battlefield, and then your command module will come back down and scoop each one of them up, and then you'd have all the components and stuff.
But on that same note, they said they were going to have a little hospital module for the Caterpillar too. You could just have those spread out all over the battlefield and use those as like command hospitals or respawners even.
I don't think they'll ever do respawn on them. The reason I say that is because they said that the only place you could respawn would be the Endeavor.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
I don't think they'll ever do a different thing. They might. I mean, everything's in flux. That's the way it works. But I don't think they will, just because they don't want to. They don't want to water down the Endeavor's capability too much, because it is like. Everything you can do on the Endeavor is the quality of planet side, they said. So anything you could do, like superconductor-wise, scanning-wise, science-wise in general, farming-wise, can be recreated on an Endeavor. Maybe not to scale. You couldn't plant a farm nearly as big as you could on a planet, obviously, but you would be able to simulate the same quality of goods on the Endeavor as anything on planet side.
That's what I'm really excited about, is the farming. I think with the advent of what they realized with planets is they're like, man, we're going to have a lot of space.
Yeah.
I think they might. One of the things that I was thinking of that they could reduce their need to have players lease or take land would be, in the Gauss system, there's a planet that only people born on Gauss 1 or 2 can own land there, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could be a sharecropper. They would lease land to you, and it would already be in the game. You could go then grow crops, right? So that would be something that they could put into the game where it wouldn't be like everybody's like this land rush going out to find land, but instead you go lease it from existing farms and existing farmers.
Same thing with some of the space stations and stuff. I thought about was that they had a farm space station where it had just a bunch of really domed out things, kind of like what the Endeavor has as modules, but it's a satellite, much like Korea or something, but all the extension arms are huge farms. Maybe it's
big domes.
Yeah, big domes. Like maybe only these, like there's a sun that only certain plants can grow by the certain sun, and there is no planets or landmass that could facilitate that. Something cool like that would be neat. Or you have to fly your own Endeavor there and then angle it on the sun and just chill out in order to like cycle and rotate these certain crops that you could only grow in that environment because they were just super rare or something. That would be neat.
A friend of mine from Germany, he plays Farm Simulator all the time. Like that is his go-to game. And he was like, oh, if they made farming in Star Citizen even like half as good as like Farm Simulator, he'd switch.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd be farming in Star Citizen the whole time, and that's all he'd ever do is just farm. And I think that they could do it with the fact that you could say the UEE is buying it for the war effort.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
but back to the console. We go off on tangents here all the time. It's normal.
I know, right?
Well, that's normal. They talked about all the processing and stuff like that. Oh, yes. This is where they talked about, you can see how the Nox is like much higher up off the ground than what they showed in like the demo thing. And this is great because I was a little worried about that. I was like, if it hugs the ground, what if I find this rock? Like
Pebble makes a flip.
Oh, my God. I mean, from just playing PUBG, the terrain's insane, but this is much better. You get a little bit higher ground off there, so you're actually hovering at a better rate, faster speeds, and you can avoid it. It looks so good. It looks so good. Oh, my God,
that looks so good.
Yep.
I hope that they deal with the LODs popping, because I saw a little bit of that in the beginning of that video.
Yeah, I did too, when they were going through and the... Yep. You can see it. Yep.
You can see
some
the
of
rock
the boulders
just kind of
snaps in.
Like, materializes. It's like no. I
could be a real problem if you're going super fast, right? It's like there wasn't a rock there.
I think they can kind of it's easier for them on planets and moons that have atmosphere and fog like conditions because you don't have to have a very long distance views of where you're going because it's too foggy or it's the mist is there or something like that, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and stuff like this is amazing to me, but I'm also like, hopefully this didn't delay 3.0 because it's like, while I appreciate the liquid in the cup and all, I'm like, I don't think it's pivotal moments like, oh, we need Miles Eckhart mixed mystery drink to be more fluid in nature. You know, I'm like,
but this is going to be used across all the bars.
Yeah,
that is true.
This is true. And then they talked again about the shock system.
Gear.
Yeah, the landing gear. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, looks so good. Way better than the original rigid system because, you know, we all bounced our ships when we came down too hard and sometimes snapped pieces off. But they said, like, here, the great thing about it is it's going to be reactive to the environment, like you'll see on this one. See how it bounces and lifts? And some people they're like, oh, that looked kind of crappy. I'm like, no, it's based on gravity. If it's a low gravity environment, you are going to have that little cushion and bounce off and kind of have to force it down on there and then shut her down. But on heavier gravity, you're going to be able to sink and not snap parts of your ship off. So that's going to be great. It's going to be really great. It's going to be interesting when they have swamp environments because they mentioned that, like, will your ship sink in the mud?
Well, you saw they have Dagobah on there.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, it's like, well, that wasn't themed by any movie franchise that we all know about there.
So. Hey, well, I've always said that the Stanton system is Star Wars.
Yeah, I would agree. There's the right number of elements there, right, for the right type of planets.
Look, Crusader, Bespin, right?
Yep.
You've got ArcCorp, Coruscant.
Yep.
You've got Microtech, Hoth. I mean, and then Hurston, which one would that be? Maybe if it's a desert, more of a desert, like it's a mined out world. So that's more of like where that's from a different movie. It's not the first movie, but
no.
I mean, look at all that, you know?
Yep.
it seems very Star Wars-esque, the Stanton system.
Absolutely. And one of the things that also amazed me is somebody asked today during the happy hour about the maps, right? And they said, well, do they get a different map on planet side? Will there be planet side or moon side maps, right? And they said, this is the map for that. And I'm like, what? Yep. And they said you just scroll in because that thing will zoom all the way into the planet you're on, the location on the planet, all that stuff. But there's
it was like Google Earth, right?
Yeah,
where
like
you
Google
just,
Earth.
You just scroll out and you just keep on scrolling.
That's right. I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome. I mean, that's going to be amazing. Right? But
a lot of scrolling.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe so. You know, it's like,
get carpal tunnel.
Maybe they'll have a page up, page down system so you can chunk it. Like, you know, go chunk instead of like, I'm still mouse wheeling. I got to hit free spin on the mouse. It's like, go a while. But they also said that the thing I was worried about, that they are still going to have, not really a fog of war, but if you haven't been to an area or you don't have intel about it or something, you won't see all the landmarks on the map. You're going to see maybe major stuff, but you actually still have to reveal it. So it gives us a reason to explore, right? To unlock stuff on the planet. So it's not just like, oh, we see everything here. It's like it'll mark it and we'll identify on the map as we explore different planets and moons and stuff. I'm like, that's super fucking cool. Because that alone gives you a reason to have info running and intelligence and map and explorers and stuff. Because maybe you've never been to this one moon or this asteroid or anything else, and you can get that info from them. That's super cool.
I saw that stuff. I started throwing my money at my monitor, but it didn't.
Never sticks, does it?
No.
Never sticks.
Well, here's where
I'd be worried.
Yes. Or you're on the wrong type of site.
I got a little worried again when I started thinking about this because these planets are humongous. They're going to have lots of crash sites, lots of stuff to do, you know, lots of points of interest, which is going to, you know, spawn these waypoints. So after a while, and I'm not saying this is going to be anything in one day type of thing, but after a while, these things are going to have a lot of little waypoints around it.
Yeah.
So how is that going to work? I mean, is your map just going to be nothing but freaking
I would think
covered in waypoints?
I would think it'd be like an LOD system where it's scaled based on how far you're in and out of the map. I don't think like at this point you're not going to see that you have 1 billion waypoints listed on the planet, you know what I mean, or the moon.
But even just around that one planet, you can see in that picture right there, he's got, what, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Well, those are major satellites, though. I would think what I'd like to see...
those ones that you see there, those are the asteroid fields that we see already. So that's part of Crusader's Ring, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But just imagine there's probably a lot of other stuff on there that's unexplored yet.
Well,
so it's just going to get real crowded real quick.
Yeah. But
have you seen
hopefully
other
you can filter eventually, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Other map systems that I've seen in other games say, oh, I want to only see UEE, or I want to see, you can uncheck all the other
crash sites
waypoints
or the different things like that. Yeah.
And then just have ICC probe missions sites on there.
Fine.
Or so as long as they give us the ability, like little check marks that you can uncheck certain things so you're not overwhelming your senses, then I think that would be fine. And
I wouldn't mind having a summary, right? Say from this perspective, I clicked on a planet or moon, and I'm like, okay, it says you have 22 known waypoints, 3 undiscovered locations that you don't know about. Well, you know they exist, but you haven't found them yet. Or blah, blah, like a little database table just to pop up just briefly to let me know how much uncompleted stuff I still haven't seen. I don't want to know the exact total what exists, though. Just maybe stuff that I've started to search for or I found a signal for, but I haven't discovered yet, or something like that. Those things would be really, really cool. Or say you're in a bar and you get information from an NPC, there's like 3 more crashes on this one planet. It logs it on the info system of that planet, so that way I know, oh, you heard from bartender, there's like 3 other sites here, or something like that, and then you have to go discover them or something of that nature. So it has like a emergent gameplay type mission that you don't have to do, but it's something that you can do because you heard about it. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
So there's just so much involved with that. You can see how you can move interface. And I love the look at this thing. It looks so good.
Oh, the Hurricane. Whoa.
The Hurricane looks so good. I never held on to one of the ships because the description alone turned me off of the ship. It's just because
it's a glass cannon.
It's supposed to be a glass cannon, right? But it's a strafer. It's not agile, meaning it can come in for like runs on stuff. but it's supposed to have some pretty decent firepower. Now
Right.
that I've flown the Buccaneer, which is also a glass cannon, I don't feel like it's that big a glass cannon to me. I mean, I understand it's very thin, it can get popped easy, but I feel very comfortable in the Buccaneer. I don't feel like a problem with it, so it makes me start to question whether or not the Hurricane is a viable ship. So I guess I'm just going to have to try it and see what I think.
I have one, so
yeah,
you can try mine.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, a lot of the firepower in the ship, though, is totally determined by the turret gameplay. If they don't correct the turrets more, then it's not going to be a very viable ship. Eventually, it will be when they get the turret gameplay better, because otherwise, you're kind of like, you're going to have the same problem like that. And I believe you can lock this turret in position, if I remember on the Q&A from it, much like you can like the Super Hornet, where the pilot could use the system back there.
Right.
But it's supposed to be a 2-player ship. So we'll see.
like the idea of this ship with the second player in the rear turret.
Yes.
Once they fix the turrets with him, like with a full 180-degree ability to see behind you and all that kind of stuff, I'd love to,
Yeah.
Or, well, 360. It's not 180. I don't think it locks at 100. I think it's a 360 turn. But, and above. I hope the one thing about turrets that bothers me right now is the obstructive view when you look straight up.
Yes. I like the idea of a full domer.
Other than that, they're okay, but they're still a little bit with the targeting and with, all that is a little bit hard. If they can get the pips to be more accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, a little more.
Because it's hard enough firing. It's hard enough firing from a turret.
There's something wrong with the orientation on it anyway, because you are still submissive to what the pilot's doing to a certain degree, right?
That's true.
And that's one of the main aspects I don't like, where it might be better in the Hurricane, because if it's a strafer where it goes mostly straight line runs, you might have better turn gameplay because you don't have a pilot doing like I do, where I wiggle around all over the place as much.
Right. If you're not a dogfighter, then I think you'll be fine. Plus, another issue is that isn't the person in the turret supposed to be kind of like keeping people off your tail?
Yes.
So
he's more of a rear gunner. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of it as well. But the way I had a big discussion in the forums, almost 2 years ago now. We were talking about food. We were talking about turret gameplay, and my whole thing was that if you flew the ship with the idea in mind that you had, like the Retaliator, you don't have any guns. If you start flying the ship trying to do, following people, that's not smart turret. That's not managing your gunners correctly. No. If you can manage, if you understand how your ship is built, where all the gunners are, and you can fly it appropriately, then your gunners will have good targeting the whole time.
Absolutely.
So it does take skill, and that's another thing that I was saying. Look, guys, they're not just going to nerf it to the point where it doesn't really take skill to fly with people in turrets.
Yeah.
They still want you to be able to understand you can't fly it like a dogfighter and expect your turret gunners to be able to.
And that's the other aspect I wanted to point out why turrets are so ineffective in many games, and that is because the pilots don't understand how they work. Because even in games like one of the guys in chat brought up PlanetSide 2, the turrets in there are pretty good. If you're oriented on a target and your pilot veers a little bit, like 5 degrees, you're still on target because your turret is intelligent enough to know that you're aiming here. It's not submissive to the pilot's discretion on marginal turns and corrections.
Yes.
Now, if he banks or pans, yes, you're going to go to where you're occluded from the target, but that's because, the pilot had to turn.
If the pilot doesn't understand the function of their vehicle, and that includes turrets, then they're going to make turret play not fun. So I put that onus on the pilot, not on the people in the turrets. Now, the turrets, don't get me wrong, they need to be fixed. There are certain aspects, the occlusion of view when you look up, the targeting, those are certain things that really do need to be fixed. The smoothness in how they turn and all that kind of stuff. But once those things are fixed, the turrets will still be not fun to play if the pilot sucks.
Yes.
So,
but go ahead. Finish up.
I'll just finish this really quick. If you're a good dogfighter, but then you go in and fly a big ship that has lots of turrets, you might not be able to fly it appropriately for those turrets.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
it's just understanding your ship. That's kind of what I was saying.
But see, this all boils back to why they slowed the speeds down too on the ships. They needed to slow the combat speed down in order to make these turrets even viable. Yeah. Because at the speeds they had, all you had to do was just drop. And of course, with a ship like this, where your only field of view is on the top of your ship, it was impossible to keep a target on somebody who's just kind of waving around with as fast as those ships went.
And and once the more the pilots accept, like on certain ships, like i.e. like the Constellation, not so much, but maybe like the Retaliator and different ships like that, majority of your static firepower is all in your turrets. It's you have a torpedo, yes, but your lock time on that is meant for larger vessels, not to like track down a Super Hornet and one shot with a size 9 torpedo.
Starfarer is a good example as well. You're not a dogfighter. Stop trying to fly it like that, because you're going to take yes, you have gun, and that's one of the problems, is that the pilot does have these guns that he can fight with. So he's always feeling this urge to follow the others. Don't do that. Yeah. Those guns are meant for bigger ships. Yeah. If you don't want to be trying to dogfight a Hornet, just let your turret gunners take care of it.
And generally, if you notice on the design of most of the ships, the turrets are located on a much more armored area of the ship, so it can take some punches there. Whereas if you're going right at them, not only is your cockpit exposed, but then also your underbelly and different areas of your ship, when you have to bank or pan as a pilot, you get hit worse. That's why these ships usually went on mission, much like the Flying Fortress is old, and then the gunners handled everything else. It's like that's how they had to do it. But
pilots don't pay attention to the fighters. They pay attention to their goal. Yep. And the turret gunners are supposed to do their job. If they're doing their job right, they are at least keeping the fighters at bay. And then you're supposed to have escorts as well. So I don't think we've had the full game in yet. So a lot of people are complaining about things that are not fully fleshed out.
Exactly.
So you don't have that support group. They don't have those escort fighters along with you, because if you have that, then the turret gunners can really be helping the escort fighters, and then you have this whole cooperative battle that's going on. Yeah. And Toy is right about the speeds being slowed down to make that more possible.
Absolutely. Plus I think the one thing that I could give as a note to CIG on like how to make the turrets better is, I know they want to have that lag in it, and it's very World War II, where they were like, on not full gyros and all that stuff, but they were like, you go this way and it orient and it'd chase the target and try to catch up with it. We need real-time reaction on turrets. I'm talking like it needs to move as fast as the mouse does, and that would fix almost entirely. And I know people are like, well, that'd be OP. Then you don't fly a small ship at a Retaliator. You don't do that by yourself. It's meant to be able to fan off squadrons of people coming at it, not like have problems with one ship. So
they have said that the Retaliator should be able to, a fully armed and fully manned Retaliator should be able to fend off 3 Hornets.
Yeah, and there's no way it can right now. It's not even possible.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But if you had real-time reaction on those, real-time reaction where it moves in as tight as your mouse, you would see a different story right now today. You would see a whole different story. So,
well, yes and no. Like I said, pilots have to learn how to fly these ships with turrets.
Yeah.
So this is a problem. People don't want to learn how to do that. They're just like, just give it to me now.
Yeah. Another thing I'd like to see is, we haven't seen this implemented in the game yet, but I want to see the first auto turret, where it's a remote turret from a person enclosed in the ship, right? Where he has full 360 degree. I know the Polaris and some of the larger ships, that's what they're going to have. They're going to have you in a crew position and have that. But design-wise in the Hurricane, and I know it's hindsight now, I would have loved it to have an upper and lower turret and have the person operating sit in the middle of the ship back there, and it'd be like 2 guns and 2 guns, and they have 360 degrees on top and bottom with remote camera. That would have been really cool, instead of the traditional guy sitting in one seat on top.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, because then it would have give him discretion. Say you go below the 360 line on the belly, this one just stops, and then the 2 guns they activate on the bottom, and your camera's just fluid between the 2 cameras. So you got better protection.
What I hope that they do for the Hurricane?
What's
and
that?
for other ships like it, I hope that they give the rear gunner the ability to drop flares or chaff. Like they give
That would
them
be-
countermeasures.
And that goes back to your point of like the gunners should be worried about the fighters, the pilot should be worried about the mission.
Yes.
And that would
Right.
make more sense, right? Because they're like, oh, he's coming in. Okay, we got lock. And then they know when they're locked. They know the status of everything else. They should be aware of all the same things and feedback the pilot gets for being targeted, damage-wise locked, and it's not real-time syncing right now. Even if the intention is to do that, it's not working.
Right.
So,
well, that's what items 2.0 is supposedly supposed to start moving us towards, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be much better because it shouldn't be a Super Hornet could solo a Starfarer or a Reclaimer or any larger ship by himself easily. And right now that's the case. The Super Hornet is so OP a fighter, it'll take out a Constellation no problem by itself.
Well, I think the only reason is because the Constellation is. I think the Hornet is right where it's supposed to be, and the Constellation is not at all where it's supposed to be. The Constellation is supposed to be, and plus, no crew positions in the Constellation work at the moment. And the Constellation's not a dogfighter. So if you're all by yourself in your Connie and you're fighting a Hornet, I'm thinking that that's a pretty even match, especially because, yes, you're going to spam all your missiles at them if you can, and if they're very good with their countermeasures, they should be able to avoid it. However, if you are fully crewed, that Constellation should be able to take out the Hornet.
I just feel
you
the
see what I'm
Connie,
saying?
but I feel like the Connie should be tanked enough where a single fighter would have a real hard time, even without being fought back, to take it down. Because it's a 5-man ship. I know it's heavier tank now, but I still feel like there's a scale of where the Connie should not be able to be dropped by a dogfighter by himself easily.
Well, I mean, if you don't have a properly manned ship, you're going to be vulnerable. That's why I think that a lot of people are not. They're thinking, oh, I'm just going to get into my freelancer and go out there and I'll be able to defend myself. Maybe not.
No,
you might really need to have a full crew, or at least more than just in your ship to be able to defend.
Depending where you're taking it, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be fighting, even so, I go out by myself in a freelancer right now and fight pirates. It's not an easy thing to do. In fact, I just have defaulted to my Hornet because of the fact that these other ships, the Constellation, the freelancer, are not really easy to fight the pirates with. The Gladius is always out of my range. I'm trying to turn, but I can't turn fast enough. Now, if there was somebody in the on shields, managing shields for us, so every time the Gladius was spinning around us, that person was just rotating the shields and adding power and doing all that, and then another guy in the turret firing at him, I think would be much better. And then I could have my Rio or my side seat guy. Maybe he could manage the missiles. So all I'd have to do is fly.
Absolutely.
That, I think the freelancer all of a sudden becomes a much more viable, much more dangerous vessel for pirates, a much more capable vehicle. But single pilot flying one of these just makes it.
The
so
other
I don't think we know
that we're going to run into, especially with the freelancers, is I think that when pirates deal with a freelancer, they have to make a decision. Am I there to destroy this ship, or do I want its cargo? Because if you go right at it, then the viability of, okay, I might lose 2 or 3 of my ships trying to take out a freelancer, and even if I disable him, the cargo is probably not going to be there because there's good I'm going to kill him. And that's where I think the freelancer has this great transport sweet spot still for the transport size. If you don't want to go whole series for a safe zone and you're going something a little more dangerous, I think the freelancer is the best transport ship, because I think it's one of the things that can shit and get out of there, but it can also defend itself to enough to where you're not going to have somebody come up with a single Hornet and usually defeat a freelancer. You're going to need a couple people there to do it, and then you risk reward versus the ships in general. So all those things and stuff. But this is a badass looking ship.
It is.
It's got the same type of pilot seat that we see in the Gladiator. Yeah, where it drops out. But I love the symmetry of it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it does.
So it's going to be interesting to see where we go with that. Just looking at all the configurations and stuff. I don't know. It's a hard decision for me with these ships sometimes. Something I think that's not going to be wonderful, and then it'll come out, it'll probably be badass, and I'll be like, oh, I got to rebuy one.
It happens.
So every time, they get me every single time. Coming up here is another thing that I got pretty excited about, even though it's just kind of mundane to some people. The uniforms and stuff that we saw. All the different, we're starting to see them fleshed out.
Right?
Yeah, like the bridge crews and stuff looks so much better.
The medic.
Yes. Definitely, you had everything from flight crew to medics to repair guys to all sorts of stuff. And it's looking really good. We're starting to see more fleshed out characters as far as their clothing goes. And it's exciting to see because I can picture these NPCs walking around.
Yep.
And doing stuff and interacting with each other and possibly even us. And yeah.
I like that guy. That guy looks so cool.
Yeah. That guy almost looks like a really bad low-rank college professor to me, though. The guy with the sweater and the fingerless gloves.
Yeah. At least he didn't have elbow patches. I like the tats.
The tattoos are freaking amazing to me. They did such a good job with this, and Jay Lee did these. If you haven't looked at this part, it's at 725 of the video, guys. He developed a whole technique in order to do these on the characters to not make them look like they're decals and stuff and actually make them look like they're on flesh. And he did a lot of research on it. And he hand did all these. He didn't like Photoshop and shrink down. These are all drawn by hand on the characters. That's just amazing work there. You gotta
amazing.
You gotta love
this one.
Stuff.
Oh
this
my god,
one's so sick.
I thought of Firefly, the Reavers.
Yes,
that's exactly what. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
This is the. And then again, my stream and we kind of picked through this picture, and I was like, if you look at the arm, it looks like the arm is like biomechanical. It looks like there is like these armored faceplates that are attached to his face.
Yeah, I don't know if those are just body augments or if they're tattoos or if they're like, I don't know.
Oh, I was thinking that this could be like the end state. This could be a similar end state for us when we're closer to our end of life. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because we know that there's permadeath in the game, right?
Yeah.
And as you get more and more battle damage to your human body, things have to be replaced. Luke lost his hand and now has a robotic hand. This guy has a robotic arm. And that takes, if you have to replace a limb, that does take off one of your lives and moves you closer towards permadeath. So this guy could be like just one step from permadeath, or an example of what that would look like. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So I don't know.
They want to see the close up of his face again. I thought you just wanted to look at the RSI underwears. And you can see there where, it looks like he has a chin augment and stuff like that. Like he's just been pretty brutalized, or maybe he's
the eyes look. I mean, looks like right above the eyes here. It looks like it's growing over the whatever that is implanted into his face.
I wonder what the nose augment does. Does he smell better?
Yeah.
Robot nose.
Not from our perspective,
Probably
but maybe those are just armor plates, right? Maybe he's had his nose broken so many times. This is the only way to keep his head from collapsing.
Or they had to break his nose to put his augments in his eyes in or something. But it's pretty cool.
So I don't know, but that was really cool.
Yep. And I saw this with the damage, with the torso damage and all this stuff. I'm like, it's amazing how deep they're going down this rabbit hole with these characters. I'm just like, what? They're gonna go.
These are the dead bodies that we're gonna find in the game, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, is this gonna be damage state on us too when we get shot?
I would imagine so. If they're mortal wounds and they're not wearing gear.
They talked about us having holes in our suit and losing air and stuff out of it.
Well, these are just street gear. This isn't like suit gear, but
this is holes in the body.
I'm with you, but it could be used on anything, right?
Yep.
So okay, so if the doctor abilities are going to be, of course, all our human skill, it's not like you're going to raise up, I'm a 50th level or whatever. It's not going to happen that way. But if that's the case, don't you think they're going to have to give us something to delve into, to use, like maybe tools like you would repair a ship, but This way, you repair a human body,
and that's
right?
exactly what I was thinking was the repair dock that we saw before for ships and stuff, and how they cut off bad areas and replace them with like ships, and then they use a 3D printer in order to reprint wings and all that stuff. I could see that being used so much for people at this stage that it would just be really translation to go from that to medical, and then you have to do the same thing. You have to hold the lasers right thing. Yep.
Yeah, but look at what they're doing with our SO2, right? Our oxygen saturation, right? They're saying if that oxygen saturation gets low, it gets low because of certain things like too much CO2 in the atmosphere. Maybe they're going to have CO2 scrubbers that you can, if you go onto a ship, you can sabotage their CO2 scrubbers. You don't take your suit off, and they everybody passes out because you've got their CO2. Then you take all their cargo, and they wake up a little bit later. They're like got headaches, and they have, like, their mobiGlas tells you have 5 minutes before you're going to die, and you have to replace. Anyway,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Speaking of the mobiGlas,
I know, right?
It's amazing, and this is also something that Jaylee did.
Yep, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It really
look at it, it just breaks down. It's like, oh yeah, we're just like all the inner workings. I mean, they're basically building like a real freaking watch when they do that. It's really good.
I like this. I like what they showed it on the wrist, the bare wrist, right?
I like how they made it look like a Samsung device, right? mobiGlas 2, classic remastered. I'm like, what? So cool. I feel like it's a sport fitness watch, like my old Fitbit watch, right? It's like, it looks exactly like, just snap it on. It's got the legs that then pop up and do the whole ground. I'm like, that's so awesome, man.
So cool.
That's awesome. Yep, Space Fitbit, exactly.
Well, it's funny because they took the old one, which was a big clunky one, and now this is the mobiGlas 2. It's all sleek,
and put all the components you needed to do it in there. It looks amazeballs, and it will work with both your space suit or street gear.
Yeah,
it's good with dinner wear or a casual jog around the park.
Eric Kyron Davis's hair.
That is actually a more tame version of his hair right there than what I've seen sometimes.
Bedhead all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a bedhead all the time.
I do too. You just can't see it because I shave it all the way down.
Oh.
Yep. Derelict ships. It's amazing.
Derelict.
How far are you through this video? Okay, I was going to say, you haven't even got to my favorite part.
No, we're only at 9:22. This is a lot, man.
We go on so many segues. We should be salespeople for them.
There you go. Well, it's hard not to when you get with a lot of like-minded people and you talk and look at the beauty that you see in some of these ATVs. Their ATVs have gotten so much better for the lack of community content where they keep having shows that fail, like or are not up to their standard on Fridays and other things like this. Like they do something and it's kind of like, oh, it's successful. They try to run with it, like the art thing, right? It was cool the first time they did it, and then it was kind of like, we don't really care. They have gotten they keep improving on ATV. Like every time it gets better and better and better with their structure, their formats, their content. And even at a time right now where they don't really have anything new to show us, but the amount of art and stuff they have stacked up is just amazing. It's just so much content that they can release now that 3.0 is really close. And all this stuff is from the demos last year. Yeah.
Right, but then they got into a whole bunch of new stuff, which was I was looking forward to.
Oh, yeah.
And here he was explaining about, remember, he started going in and talking about their the phases of ship development. So he's trying to let us know about what they have to go through. So they go from concept to white box to gray box to production to texturing, optimization, then damage, and finally derelict. So there's all those stages they have to go through, and they're all now a part of the pipeline.
Yep.
So derelict is now a part of the pipeline. Every ship has to go through all those stages.
Which will be amazing if they bridge the gap and do what they want to do big picture wise, which right now the derelicts are a static location that happens and it's like there it is. But they eventually want to make it to where if a ship crashes, it goes through those phases, right?
Right.
That's what
Yes.
they'd love to do. We don't know if they'll ever be able to do that because that's super complicated and convoluted. Like, you got to determine where they're going to lay, how are they going to look when they lay, and all this stuff. Because all these are artists kind of mapped down and stuff on this.
So
one.
you can do that with kind of faking. Well, yeah, I mean, it would
In
be
space,
done
it'd be easier. than
No, on
Bonsai.
land too. So think if you crash in a desert, a big puff of dust and sand go up, and it then goes into that position. So when the dust settles, you see the burning wreckage.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be.
so
cool.
then you don't. Then you can kind of. It can kind of like there can be certain things a little bit. I guess you could say faked because they're getting all the positions ready. You can see when they're positioning it, they already all they have to do it when they set it down. It already adheres to the contours of the land. So if they just say that, okay, when a ship crashes, it goes through A, B, C, D, and E, and it adheres to the contour of whatever land it's touching, it should be able to be done. Now, not in 3.0 or even up to 3.2, but I'm imagining that once we are into this being more a part of the pipeline and all the ships have their derelict states, they all have their damaged states, it's all been fleshed out. At that point, they can write the code that would say, okay, puff of smoke, explosion, whatever it is that obscures the player's view. And then when the smoke or dust or whatever it is clears, the wreck is burning on the ground.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's kind of how I'm thinking that they're going to go through with it. We're not going to see that at first, but we will eventually see that.
So what happens if the lightning just strikes and it lands on you? You're on a planet and it poof right on top of you.
Oh, well,
I guess
you'll
poof,
die.
you're dead.
Landing on a human, a big ship crashing on a human, it won't matter because you won't see it anyways.
Just saying, stuff like that. It's like
But
No Man's
come on,
Sky.
planets are big. They are huge. I mean, these moons. See, here's the thing that really is exciting is that these moons are way smaller than the planets are going to be.
Yep.
I agree with you, but you always
hear
go back
how long
to
it
the No
took
Man's
him-
Sky analogy.
Did you hear how long it took him to drive a dragonfly completely around one of them?
No,
I
that was a
sad
Nox.
to hear that.
Wasn't that? It was a Nox.
A Nox.
It
That's
took,
right.
yeah, they drove the Nox, which is what, 200 meters per second?
Something
And
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took them 15 hours.
Yeah.
And that's just a moon.
I thought they said 3.
Yeah, I thought they said it was a lot less than that.
I think it's 3
so-
hours by Nox all the way around. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
where was that though?
Where did I find that? I'll find it for you.
Because I'm pretty sure
I don't think it took 15.
3 hours for the Dragonfly, but that was on a small, that was on Levski now, or not Levski, but Delamar.
Penguins confirmed
Now
it.
look at Delamar; it's much smaller than
3 hours.
Daymar.
Pingus is 3 hours for the dragonfly. And then Bushki says 15 hours, right? Question mark.
Yeah,
All right, somebody find us the proof.
some links somewhere. I want
here's-
links.
yeah. I remember they said that, and this was God. Who was it? And they even said it today on Happy Hour.
Yeah.
They were talking about that they had that like they were on Daymar, I think. And it
I know
took
he
so
talked about
long.
over 5,000 square miles, but I think driving it one direction all the way around, I think they said it was 3 hours going flat out.
That's got to be on Delamar though, not on Daymar. The difference is
It might be. I don't know.
because Delamar is much smaller.
Yeah.
It's an asteroid compared to Daymar, Yella, and so on.
Oh, a gray
are all
cat, I could see
moons.
it taking 15. Gray cat's slow as poop.
Oh, I think that would take 15 days. And
Yeah, I know. It's like
Probably.
taking your golf cart with you. It's like
Right.
"Woo." The gray cat's one of those things. I'd like to see it shifted for a planet to where it had
I
a
love
solar
this
panel
scene.
on it. I know,
This,
right?
This nighttime scene.
Oh my God, the
And I
sky
went
rolling
looked
over
through
the
that a
top.
couple times when the sky, when the you
Yep.
know, like
I didn't
So
even
what
notice the sky the first time, and then I was like, "Oh my God!" You see it like roll over, like you do in like
And the stars.
Yeah, the stars. And
This
everything.
is what I've been asking for since they talked about planets. I wanted to see the actual rotation, the actual time lapses and stuff like that, and they're finally showing.
The sun seems a little big to me. Does it seem a little big to you
It
guys?
does, but it depends on what planet they're on. I wouldn't think if the sun was that close, it'd be a habitable planet to me.
I think that what they're showing here is maybe even on one of the moons of Hurston, because Hurston is the first planet in the Stanton system, right?
Yeah.
So maybe these are moons of Hurston, where the sun is big.
Could be.
Because don't you remember he was saying that they're already building? They built the whole system already.
Yeah.
But they've really fleshed out the Crusader area. But I think they've, even if it's halfway done on setting up the moons of Hurston, Hurston has 4 moons, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at on Delamar or Daymar, not Delamar, but Daymar or Sela or Yellen, the sun is about the size of a pencil eraser held out from you, right? It's not because
it's pretty small
it's pretty small. So in that last picture, it was pretty big. So I just kind of went, oh, maybe that's one of from the surface of one of Hurston's, and maybe that's from the surface of Hurston right there, right?
Yeah,
because there's plant life, and we know that Hurston is a super Earth, right?
Absolutely. So they're showing some of the other just wrecks and stuff like that. They've showed this before too.
I love that. Look at that with the fence. It just makes me, and then all of the wind turbines.
Yep, absolutely.
I got a little bit of a Fallout vibe from that.
Some of it feels that way a little bit. Like even if you look at the old stuff here where they went up on the I guess was it a Jav or is that an Idris from last year?
No, that's a Javelin.
Yeah,
destroyer.
I thought it was Jav.
We haven't seen except for inside beauty shots.
We've seen all the inside
Idris.
of the Idris. We've never seen a wrecked one. We've seen all the inside of the Idris and the damage states even on the inside.
Yeah, we saw a crashed Idris, but only from the inside. Right?
Yes,
where the girders had fallen.
Yeah, like if you're a crew survivor or something destroyed. Like that. Yeah. But even then, it wasn't a derelict state, right? That was at a just recently wrecked state. So it'd be interesting to see,
right?
Because now that they've had that stuff,
they got all these different stages of derelict states. This one was the one that I thought of when I was like, oh. I'm getting a Children of the Corn kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's a little bit thrown in your face repeatedly there. It's like,
little much. I hope there's some differentiation.
But there's all the solar panels and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I like that.
And then some of the modules we've seen before there too. Definitely using all their footage. And it's interesting how they say, oh, we can just lay these down like this, It's like, pop. There you go.
And it follows the contour of the land. So no matter where they put it, it'll follow the contour of the land. I like that.
I do too. The tools
and if you read some of those things, they have different states, like a high-speed crash versus a landing crash.
Yeah.
Landing crash, all the pieces are closer together. A high-speed crash, they're very spread apart.
Uh-huh. And they also mentioned, like in today's happy hour, that I thought was funny, is they said the tools now, because they were talking about laying down racetracks. And one of the devs actually used to work on some of the racing games over there in the UK for different companies and whatnot. And he said, it's amazing to me that this game, Star Citizen, is built tools now that's easier for him to lay down a concept racetrack, not a fully finalized one, but like within a few minutes in game. And it does it better than the full racing games that he used to make a few years ago. It's like, and this isn't even a racing focused game, but it's like the tools they have allow them to manipulate stuff and do that.
What I'm hoping they do eventually, because they talked about, some static tracks that they're going to be placing down with the waypoint things. But I'm hoping later on they actually give those same tools to players so they can make their own racetracks on places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that is something that I'm really looking forward to.
That would be
is
really
the ability to set up racetracks, set up different courses and that kind of thing, and it would be even cool that they could do the contracts, right? You know how you set up the contracts. They said that contracts won't be in for us to make for each other in 3.0, but they maybe 3.1. But if you could set it up to where whoever wins the race, and then whoever basically follows this track and wins crosses the finish line first, gets the prize money, and a whole bunch of people maybe could make and it would be just fun to be able to do that, you know.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and I could see them being able to do that easy too. So with all these tools they got in.
Yeah, it's a lot of this one. You know, it's funny. Every time they come up with a new ATV, I'm like, oh, this one was the one that got me the most excited.
Yeah,
and
I think it's partly the buildup of, like, and you can see the wrecks there with the bodies and corpses. Like the guy inside the freelancer, the corpses laying out outside.
That one, like, go back to the beginning of that, where you're looking past the Yella to Crusader. Oh, that is just so beautiful.
Yep.
That's so amazing. So yeah, that
so
I
good.
love that view looking.
But I didn't even notice this other guy inside the wreck. Like, like this is the first time I saw this one. I saw the other bodies before. I didn't even notice this guy until this fast. You see
Look
so
at
much
all the
detail.
rubble too. It's just wow. And that person's broken body. Oh my God, that's cringeworthy, but awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
They talked about this, the ship hanging off the waterfall or off the cliff.
Yeah. The view off into the distance with the the valley and the plateaus.
Yeah.
Oh, so
good.
We need parachutes too, so we can jump off of that.
Well, they talked about implementing. Here, I'm going to play the sound on this one too, because it's really good.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll play this. Yeah, you probably hear it.
Yeah, I guess you could say ships have always held kind of a power over me.
Javelin pieces.
Growing up, I couldn't get enough of them. I'd hang out by the pads any chance I got and listen to the pilots swap stories. My dad used to tell me, you weren't born, you landed. But yeah, there was always something about them.
SpaceBro.
These aren't graveyards to me. No, they're a testament of life. Think about all the lives that touched this one ship before it got to this place. It's crazy, right? And there are a few things in this universe that have that kind of power.
To me, it always comes down to the people who flew it. The modifications that they made to make it theirs. I mean, we could find 10 Connie wrecks, and even though the layout's going to be the same, every single one of them is going to be different.
Yeah.
What, on the last ATV,
There'll be some kind of lingering presence to connect you to the people who lived on it.
Camera, it's all wonky.
Oh, Dagobah.
A lot better.
There you go.
Oh. So we were having a discussion.
When I look at a ship, I see a person.
This is a MISC ship.
Now, I know when people find these wrecks, all they see are mounds of scrap or a payday or
it
whatever.
is a MISC ship. I'm thinking it's the Hull C because I don't recognize
Maybe it was
that
just
from
growing up on a dusty
Starfarer.
rock, but a ship was freedom. There was limitless possibility.
And a javelin.
Looks so good with the decals they have for that wind texture on the ground is amazing.
Right.
So good. So good.
I'm worried about that because I've noticed it on a few of their things, and I notice it in other games too. When they have like wind that blows through, it blows right through the ship, inside of the ship too.
No,
so
but their stuff is decaled on contours of the ground, so there's contours with the environment.
Remember,
Supposedly.
every ship they've designed those contours on the ship. We saw that in the the last ATV?
It was either that one or the one before. I can't remember now, but yeah.
Anyways, they contour. They make it. It's like a shell that goes over the ship that nobody can see. The only thing that reacts to that is those other textures that go past.
Yep.
So they follow those contours. So the when your ship lands, that sand and wind will go over and around your ship.
And they have it decaled even with audio. So if the sand and wind are hitting a certain portion of the hull, it'll make that sand against metal sound if it indicates it's metal. And if it's not metal, it'll sound like sand and wind blowing against the dirt and it wrestling.
It'll
across
go
there.
through. I think it'll go through us, but I don't think we'll really notice because it'll be such an active scene. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as long as you don't see it on cameras penetrating your helmet or something weird, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because that'd be the only thing
they'll put a bubble. Maybe they'll just put a bubble around your head or helmet so that it goes around that, but that's the only thing.
Yeah, they could. They could, because your camera is an oriented object of itself in the game. So, yeah, I could definitely see that. But no, it's really cool. I mean, ATV was amazing. We've already referred to a lot of stuff, what we saw in the happy hour. There's a couple other things I wanted to talk about in the happy hour, then we'll get to production schedule. If you guys have questions for any member of the cast or all three of us, be sure to put in !questions in chat, and we will do a little bit of Q&A here at the end of the show. And then we will also, at the end of it, be drawing out that lovely, wonderful $10 gift card. Make sure you're getting in there for that, but you do have to follow all three streamers, please. So make sure you're doing that as well. So, and then might have another prize for you a little bit later on in the after show. We'll see what happens with that. So, just to dive into a couple things they talked about pretty heavily in the happy hour. They talked about insurance, right? Went way into insurance, and this was important, and they spent a good 20 minutes or better on the topic. And some people in chat, I was reading the chat when I watched the replay of it, were like, oh my God, I've been on insurance for... It's pretty important. It's a big deal. It's the basis of like us talking about LTI and everything else, and why it might not be a huge fiscal impact on any one person in the community. A lot of people are interested about it and want to find out more about how the insurance works.
Right.
So what were your guys' takeaways from that?
Toy?
I'm glad to see they're actually starting to implement the first iteration of insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Have to see how it actually works. So, but it sounds good. I mean, everything sounds good so far.
The thing that I was excited about or happy to hear about is that every time you crash, the cost is going to go up. So the cost to retrieve your vehicle will increase.
Within a window of time.
Yes.
Yes.
So what I think this is going to, and then for the first iteration, after 24 hours, it's all, evaporates and you can come back and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the damage states will persist. So you'll still have to repair, like, I don't know, if your ship is completely destroyed, then all you have to do is wait for 24 hours and you come back and your ship is completely repaired, or will it come back? Will you still have to pay, like the cost is going to go up, and then after it's over, like they said, what is it? Every hour it'll go down by 1,000
UEC.
Right?
Yes, 1K UEC. So it depends on the value of the ship. If you have a very expensive ship,
he did say weeks. He said it could take, if you want to wait for that price to go down to zero, it could take weeks.
It depends on the scale of the ship. And they're talking about a large body of ships, not only what's flyable now, but they're thinking the future. Because if you have a ship, let's say, I don't know, a Hornet is 20,000 UEC or something. I don't know how much it's going to be in there. But let's just say for the sake of argument it is. That would be a 20-hour wait to get it for free.
Yes.
If you wanted to get it at half price, you'd wait 10 hours, so forth, so on, all that stuff. Now, you could get it instantly with paying the $20K and not wait for it to be back out there, but that's up to you whether you want to do. Whereas something that's going to be a Idris, which according to Chris Roberts will cost billions when you get to the game, not just thousands or millions, it'll cost billions. If that is a reduction of 1 per hour, oh my God, weeks for sure, bro. Weeks for sure.
And the beauty of that is also that people are really, like Crucible owners are going to have lots of work because nobody's going to want their ship to be destroyed because the wait will be like an Idris or a Javelin could even be up to a month. So you'll be like, no, dude, I'm going to hire you. Repair my ship. There's no way I'm waiting that long. And honestly, I think that's kind of a good thing because there is a way to recover your ship. When I've heard them talk about it over the last, I don't know, maybe 12 weeks, they've talked about they want to move more towards instead of like in the video game aspect of you're dogfighting, your ship pops and you're destroyed and you're dead. Instead of that, it's going to be more disabled, more, you know, your ship's no longer functional. You're out of the fight. Sometimes if you don't get out of your ship in time, or if you don't get into the back and repair certain things that are starting to go critical, then it will explode, right? Yeah. But like remember when they showed that Connie was sitting there and sparks were starting to go, and then eventually the thing exploded in a spectacular explosion. That's kind of what they want to go towards, where it's you're dogfighting, the ship is knocked out of combat, it's powered off, it's starting to overload. The pilot now has to get out and do some emergency repairs, at least to stop it from blowing up, so that you can then call the Crucible to come and give you a tow or fix you, right? So the whole idea is we're not going to be seeing the pop anymore of the ships just evaporating and the pilots dying. We're going to see ships disabled. When you win the fight, the ship is disabled, not destroyed. And I think that's going to change how people take care of their ships. The insurance is going to ensure that. Yep. But see what I did there? That's for you, Ben.
But they also need to start adding a lot more health to these bigger ships to make them last longer. Because like Mitt was talking about earlier, it's way too easy to pop a Connie. So
yeah. Well, and I think that Item System 2.0 is going to build in a lot of extra things into the ships that we don't have right now.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because, I mean, you can't control the shields. As you know, when we used to be able to control the shields fluidly, even as an individual or with a co-pilot in the Connie, you could make the thing virtually unkillable, because the guy could shift shields around, he'd boost power to shields, and that was his sole role on the part of the bridge crew to do it. And once they had to take that away, you know, in the more recent builds, you'll see the Connies are still tough, but they get beat up pretty quick. So I think once you have the pilot and the co-pilot and other people working together on that, I think it's going to be dynamically different. Plus, you'll be able to upgrade shields and different component systems that'll make a huge difference. We're flying default Connies with default settings, with default everything right now. My fear is if they overbuff them before they have all the components online, then it's like, oh, well, you did that, and then I decided to sneak in my Idris size shield, and you know, and then we're back to the undestructible sabers and stuff like that inside the game that had like Connie shields on a saber. So, you know, you got to be careful with that, and I think it's smart to kind of wait until they have all the systems online to do that. Plus, you have to consider some people won't want to go that deep into it, whereas maybe disabling a ship in defense might, you know, not hurt your rep. Maybe even if you're attacked, if you kill the entire crew of somebody who messed with you, maybe you take a rep hit or a bonus or something. We don't know. I mean, it's like he's disabled, you know, but you just murdered all 10 guys on the ship too when they had no defense. I have no idea. I mean, or it might be an aggro. If they shot me first, I own their lives. We have no idea what the reputation system's like yet. So some of those things will encourage or discourage certain types of gameplay. I noticed like they had a little write-up on Reddit. One of the guys tried to frame it in a summary there. He said basically rundown on that. He said in short, insurance coverage instead of freely replacing your ship will grant you a license to have your ship replaced. Now, I wonder if there's going to get pushback about this, because we never clearly defined what lifetime insurance was, right? Like, what did it mean? So now they're saying that you will have a fee even if you have LTI, which I'm fine with. I mean, I think a lot of us expected that because you had to have some sort of thing there. But I know some people that thought, oh, my costs are all covered with LTI.
Well, so now I always understood that there would be a waiting period and that you could bypass that waiting period by paying the fee, right? Yes. So if you have enough money to pay the fee, guess what? No waiting period. However, if you have no insurance at all, if you let it lapse, you know, I'm not going to pay for that. Well, guess what? You don't get to replace your ship at that reduced fee. You don't get to replace it at all. You got to buy a new one, right? Okay. So the idea of insurance is just saying that you don't have to go out and pay full boat for another ship. That's it. Absolutely. If you don't want to pay for the fee, just wait until the timer runs out. Yep. So for, like you said, for the Hornet, if it costs $20,000, then that would, or $25,000 or whatever, then it'd be a day.
Which obviously won't be the full cost of the ship. I don't want to scare anybody. It's not going to cost the full.
Remember what they told us? They told us. They said in the happy hour today that fee is a very, very reduced level of what the actual ship's cost would be.
But tangentially entwined with the cost of the ship. So a more expensive ship would have a more expensive speed me up replacement cost and fee. Yes. Right. So that it, if you're flying a, multi-million dollar UEC ship or multi-million UEC ship, it would cost much higher than something like an Aurora or something like that to replace. Because they want to make sure that of your fleet of personal ships you have, we don't heavily impact the people that just have basic ships and stuff. We want to get them back out there so they can make money and do that thing. But if you're flying your Super Hornet or your Polaris and you decide, hey, I want to see what happens to run into the sun, you're going to pay the penalty for that. It's going to be a little bit more than the Aurora fee. So scalable. And you get chat's right. Ben said this a long time ago too, and he reiterated this. But not everybody follows every aspect of the game to the same detail as many of the bros do. So we do like to reiterate some of these things.
Yeah, and that's why we have like we talk a lot about on stream about these kinds of things. Yeah. Mitauchi does. Toy does.
Well, we always have new people that have never even seen the game coming in, and they want to know these systems and whatnot.
I have people constantly coming in. Hey, I haven't seen anything for 6 months. What's going on?
Exactly.
Right?
And they just want that update and all that. So it's always good to have all those things there. So this will be interesting to see how this feeds back. They will have a stacking cost, like they said, that will be washed away after 24 hours, right? So if you run your Super Hornet and run your Super Hornet and run your Super Hornet and you keep paying for it, it's going to keep steadily going up in how much it costs to replace it.
Yep.
But
I also think, so this is something that will that could impact you in a further, like in more time, because remember what they said is that if you are constantly if you're dogfighting, they understand that and they can put that into mitigation. But if you're constantly crashing and it's not out on missions where dogfighting is expected, like somebody's ramming the pads at Port Olisar or something like that, your costs are going to go up and not come back down.
Yeah.
Right. So the guy who's constantly crashing into other ships on the pad eventually won't be able to afford to get his ship back.
Well, they said he could wait 24 hours.
Yeah, it'd be a day.
But that's what they were saying. Remember, they did add the caveat that if you are, because you kind of have to say, the insurance that we have here, or the reason was, combat, and if you're saying, okay, space combat, and I was doing a mission, so maybe they'll have the mission, like maybe the insurance inside the game will go look at what mission you were on and say, okay, yep, that's legitimate. But if you say space combat, but you didn't have a space combat mission and you just keep crashing into the
I think some of that would be tied to the reputation or criminal system too, because if you're crashing in Port Olisar, you're going to be taking rep and criminal hits. So then you're going to have to file your claim from Grim Hex or some other pirate station instead of there.
You'll have to go to the loan sharks to get your
and then you might have your ship blown up by other people a million times, if you're doing that stuff. So it's decision making time then.
Right.
Is it worth the troll or not?
What I wonder, though, is if it's even going to be an issue with people like us who have tons of ships, because we'll just go spawn another ship, a similar ship. If our Hurricane gets blowed up, we'll pull out the Buccaneer.
Not so much in the missions, but that's why the rep would matter with the Port Olisar scenario, because rep hits would work.
In 3.0, maybe, but where the way I look at it in the verse, when the game goes live, your ships are going to cost, I believe ships are going to be a maintenance cost. You're not going to be probably starting off with all those ships. And even if you do have them, you're going to have to wait anyway. So for example, let's say I was on Terra with my Super Hornet, then I took a job on Mitauchi's Reclaimer and we went off to Stanton together. Then Mitauchi logs off and I go sleep on, at Port Olisar. When I wake up and I call my ship, it actually has to come from Terra, the Terra system, which is a couple jumps away. So I have to legitimately wait for a hull C or D to be carrying my ship in a delivery of all these other ships of maybe other people, right? So that's kind of what I was, my brainstorming on that is.
Yeah, or if you have 15 Hornets, you're not going to carry 15 Hornets everywhere with the same scenario. You got to wait for that Hornet to get over by you, or you have to buy a replacement or rent one or something else. That's just
right. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I really think that there will be a delivery system within the game that may even end up giving contracts to players who own a Hull E.
Yep.
Say, hey, somebody wants their reclaimer delivered from Earth to the Stanton system. And because they were playing some other ship and they don't want to play it anymore. So some guy, you with your Hull E, goes, oh, I'll take that contract. You load up a big, huge container on one side of the Hull E, and you have like 7 other ships, and you're stopping along the way. Oh, I'm dropping off a Polaris over here. The Hull E is big enough that you could probably have 4 big ships carried on it. Like
if they're broken down to the component level and stuff like that, I would say so.
Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe they would just be big, giant crates that you would put on the side, so because it's 4-sided, right? I don't know how it's going to work.
They talked about like at one point having some sort of cage mechanism for the ships, and there are times they talked about having them packaged, like in a package state. Or so you couldn't just fly. So I don't know which way they decided to go because that's been over a year ago now. But I mean, we'll see as it gets closer to all that what they decide to do.
And I've talked about this a lot offline. It's about staging, so that's why I want ships staged everywhere. So
well, and they also mentioned, because a lot of people had a misinterpretation, and I noticed that Matt Sherman even mentioned this in a previous episode. Say you have an Idris, you are going to have a stock of ships stored on the Idris because you can't spawn a ship on an Idris.
Right.
It's not a spawn. It's a carry, too. There is no imaginary spawning ships places. There will be in 3.0. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But in the greater launch of the game, you have to contain these things there. So if your Idris complement of ready-prepared fighters is like 6, and then maybe in storage, because maybe condensed down, so many stored fighters takes, like, I don't know, so many SUU and blah, 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 in storage, you could hold those, and then they have to be assembled, put on the line to go, and all that stuff. So you can have so many assembled online and so many unassembled online, and that's how you'll actually take off and use them. Otherwise, they have to be transported to the vessel. They're not going to be, just
and that's kind of what I was thinking as well. With in the verse, once your ship is put into the verse, it's going to need a place to dock. If you want it to be safe, your hangars that you have with every ship that you buy in the game, when you bring that ship into the game, you'll have to pick a home port, a home base, wherever that is. That will be a permanent location. After you place it, you won't be able to just like, oh, I want to place it in Terra. You'll be like, oh, I'm going to buy or rent one in Terra and sell the one I have over on Earth.
Yep.
If that's how you did it, right? So it's going to be more of, I'm not moving my hangar, but I am moving to Terra from Earth, and I'm buying a new hangar over there, but that's okay because I sold my hangar on Earth, and so I have most of the credits that I'll need to buy the new one. Of course, you'll take a hit because you can't ever, like selling a used car, you're never going to get the same price you paid for it. But
no, and
that's kind of how I'm seeing that.
And they even went farther for people stealing ships, right? Because they didn't say it this week, but previously, Chris Roberts had mentioned that say you're a pirate and you steal a ship and you want to flip the ship, like I'm going to sell it, something like that. They're going to offer superior diminished returns on all these ships. So you're never going to be able to steal a freelancer and get even half the amount of money what the freelancer's worth selling it. You'd get more money from partying it out or chop shotting it and getting the components than the actual freelancer. Right. And that's going to discourage the whole, I'm going to steal a ship and just sell it, or I'm going to steal the ship and then have my buddy take it and sell it, and then I'm just going to try to scam insurance. They're going to make sure it's so diminished returns that nobody will be able to scam insurance companies to get money back. So they're already, they're going to work on that stuff. We are going to get to questions here shortly, so if you have questions, questions in chat, make sure you're putting them in there. That way we can get them in the system and do stuff. We're already having some stack up, so we're going to get right into these. Again, make sure that you're also entered the current keyword raffle for a $10 Star Citizen gift card is !SpaceBro. So make sure you're doing that as well.
Remember when they said, not this next Friday, but the Friday after when they have the happy hour again, they're going to do building a solar system with Solid.
I know. That's going to be awesome. That's the type of stuff I want to see in game. I would even like to see a scenario with No Pressure Jaylee art, like doing a brief concept design on something, I think that would be cool.
How about custom making a tattoo right on stream?
Right there. Yeah, that would be so cool.
That would be so cool, and he's probably pounding his face against his desk that you said that right now. 'Cause I know he said the amount of labor that went into that. He was like, oh my God! So, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. Let's go over here, and we're going to go ahead and do the production schedule conversation real quick, and then we're going to get right into your questions, guys. All right. So production schedule-wise, we didn't see a lot of changes from the pushback last week to this week, right? We had some minor stuff that we saw, and just off the diff checker and whatnot, I think the main thing that you saw, Uber, and you pointed out to us was the rendering to texture issue.
Render to texture is pushed out to August 10th. That was the one thing that really saw some major push out.
Yeah.
Everything else seemed pretty like a little bit more like from the 14th to the 21st or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's not a huge push out.
And for people that don't know what render to texture is, it's basically explained in the diff checker as this will have many uses going forward, but our focus right now is to improve the UI rendering and to introduce live rendering video communications inside the game. We're aiming to improve the rendering performance by rendering as much of the UI ahead of time of the frame. For video communications, this means that we don't have to pre-render comms and store these files on the hard drive, as it with the case with most games, allowing us to maintain fidelity and hard drive space. So basically all the video communications that you have back and forth for the missions and player to player and all that stuff that's the element of what they're talking about here.
Well,
in this
and they'll be using that for the landing control system too, right?
Yes.
So that's probably what's taking the time right there, because they're putting in the new flight control system with the new landing system and all that. So they probably need some extra time.
It may go it may just go to audio for the 3.0, and then 3.1 they bring in the video for that, because I don't know. I mean, hopefully they'll finish it, but the Evocati should, and I really think that they should get the Evocati going before they finish render to texture, since they already have it out to August 10th, you know?
Yeah.
And so they have pre-canned, like they've already said, like Miles Eckhart, all of that is pre-filmed, pre-canned stuff. But imagine if Miles Eckhart was able to, like in the future, when render to texture is working, he will be able to go to his mobiGlass as an AI character and say, hey, what's up? Hey, remember I hired you last week. You know, I got a new job.
What's even cooler?
All they have to do, they don't even have to do any mocap for that anymore. All they have to do is write the script into it, get the AI to do this thing and contact whoever is on their list, and the render to texture takes care of the rest.
And so not only that, if I wanted to contact Toy or Uber, I could do that in game.
Yes, exactly.
And that's where we're getting into the comm system. My avatar could literally be there, and for our peers, that would be amazing, because they'd be able to fully be immersed into the game as their character and stuff. Me, you know, I'm cool with Discord or whatever, but it's kind of neat to have that type of system there where you'd be able to see people talking to people on their screens and stuff.
Right. But think about this. You know, we're talking about that, yes, we'll be doing a lot of communication on Discord, but think of the people that you don't know, that you come across in the verse, and you're like, hey, look, there's that ship. Okay, send a comms. You send a comms. Appears on your screen. It's an avatar of somebody you don't know.
And that's what I want, That first
And
contact is so important like that, because you're not going to say, hey, buddy, out of game. I'll just give you my Discord and we can talk, see if we're going to shoot each other.
Right,
if we're
exactly.
Cool.
Nobody's going to do that. I mean,
breaks
unless
the immersion.
you're in an org.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, so all those random people you meet in the verse, hopefully we'll be able to have like proximity chat, the render to texture for ship to ship kind of communications.
Yeah.
All that stuff really, once it comes into the game, is going to be just, oh my God. But, you know, I really do have a lot of faith that the proximity chat will work, because I was in other games, EverQuest 2 or even Landmark, both had proximity chat that were quite easy. I would walk past and hear people talking and be like, oh, and it was directional as well.
Since you mentioned two of my favorite games that got killed, EverQuest Next and Landmark, some of the tech that they were going to add to that was that facial to character talking. So
Yes.
the camera would watch your face and watch your lip movement and actually translate it right onto your character. And with the
It did that
fidelity,
for EverQuest 2.
yeah, and with the
Not
fidelity
high
they
fidelity,
got,
but
yeah, but with the fidelity they got on these mounts, and if they did that and added that into the actual render to the texture, oh my God! I mean, it would be like a real life person standing there.
I know,
talking.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool. The big question with this, though, with this being pushed out with ETA 10th of August for this one element, and will this delay the overall scope of what's going on here to for the Evocati? Well, are they going to wait till this element's in to go to Evocati, or are they going to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and push the build? This could wait up to the date of this. As of today, it doesn't say they're pushing any dates really, but it also doesn't say they're suspending this item to later. So my inkling is that this is a soft push where it might not come out until the 10th, at the earliest, because if they're going to wait for this to be in, that means that third date for Evocati is probably going to become the 10th.
Well, remember, the reasons why we had these push-outs that got us to the point where we're at right now were for much bigger blockers than a simple render to texture. The render to texture could potentially come in, not even in Evocati, but in the regular PTU, because it's
it could.
I mean, it could.
Yeah.
Or if it gets delayed again, if it gets pushed out again, and while we're in the middle of Evocati, and they're like, well, we don't want to delay the release of 3.0, we'll just say, okay, that's going to 3.1. And they've done that before as well.
They have. They've tabled a lot of stuff, and you can go back through the production notes and see that, where they're like, okay, we're going to table this for later. We'll table this for later. That way they can keep progressing on the build. I will say that the aim dates have not changed for Evocati, which that's the conflict I find interesting. The aim dates, according to the project schedule, are still listed between July 20th and August 3rd for Evocati to get the build initially. That does not mean Evocati will get it on the 20th. I will repeat this multiple times.
Exactly. So
this is just a start
date. If
Evocati
gets it on the 3rd of August, then that finish date for the render to texture on the 10th of August may be more in line with getting into being tested by the Evocati.
Maybe.
But again, like I said, there are certain things they really want to test with the Evocati, and I don't know that render to texture would be one of those. I think there are certain things that are kind of game breaker things, clipping through the planet, that kind of stuff, that would be more suitable for Evocati, but something that renders to texture, if it doesn't work right, and especially if they have the Delta patcher, they could just take it right out, right?
Yep, absolutely. Oh, wouldn't let me do it.
A lot of it does hinge on the Delta patcher also being a part of 3.0 for us. And here's the thing, and they haven't really talked about it, but I really kind of think that maybe the reason why things got pushed out to where they are right now is because the Delta patcher wasn't really ready. And they want that to be a part of the 3.0 launch. So,
yep. Absolutely. So, my expectation, though, is still I'm leaning on the side of pessimism, because that's what I like to do. And I'm going to say that they probably won't get this till August at the earliest for the Evocati. And it's more not based on the, hey, they could wait on this, hey, they could wait on that. It's more based on the fact that I know CIG at this stage, since it's been pushed out to this point, is most likely waiting to get this build out. They want to get it done as good as they can for 3.0 for Gamescom, because we're nearing the window of Gamescom, and they want to present at Gamescom not just the flash, hey, look at all the shiny shit. They want players to play 3.0 at Gamescom, and they want it to be right. They want it to be fleshed out. They don't want to have fillers. They want to have, say, hey, the people who were last year at Gamescom coming in playing all the Star Citizen, they want them to come back, sit down, and have a whole different experience that says, wow, look how far this game's advanced. They don't want to come back and do 2.6, which is essentially what those same gamers played last year with Star Marine tacked on. Because that's going to be like, oh, you added a shooter? And that's not really where we want to present ourselves in that regard. For that.
I think...
Oh, go ahead, Joy.
I was just going to jump in there with a little something. I think it's going to come out on the 20th for Evocati, because I'm reading a lot of these little game companies are sending these guys over, and they're play testing 3.0. And yeah, they're kind of dev driven, but they get in there to get to play it a little bit. They do. They crash during the demo, but that's just going to happen for Evocati no matter what. So I think they're still going to get it out on the 20th. So that's my.
I agree with Toy. I think that this been pushed out so much that I think that they are going to get it out probably on or around the 20th. If they don't get it out on the 20th, then it'll be the Wednesday after. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gamescom's into August, by the way, in Fluency. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, they'll get it out by the 26th. If they don't get it out on the 20th, because they usually won't put it out on a Friday. I mean, if there's already an Evocati going, then a patch on a Friday is no problem. But to start the Evocati, they won't start it on a Friday. That's my... so if they miss the 20th, then the 26th will be the time that they put it out. That's my guess, but I'm thinking they're really in crunch mode right now.
Yeah.
They're looking to get it out by the 20th to the Evocati.
August.
Now that doesn't mean that it won't stay in the Evocati for 3 weeks.
Yep.
Or more.
August.
You know. So I mean, it could stay for until from the 20th to the 3rd. That's 2 weeks. Yeah. But I'm thinking that it'll stay even a little bit longer. So instead of the 3rd, it might stay till the 10th. So 3 weeks in the Evocati before it goes to the hands of the standard PTU.
My official guesstimate is August Evocati, stays with Evocati all the way either to the week before or the week of Gamescom, goes live at the event, same time we get it as a PTU or a live build, one of the two. We'll see.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking, because they want to get this thing so tight. They got all hands on deck to get so tight. They don't want to go wide until then. Chris Roberts wants to be able to stand up on the stage and say, and you can go play it right now, or you'll be able to play it next week or something like that. He wants to be able to do that big pitch and sell there, because that's Gamescom is their big marketing event. CitizenCon is not for the wider world. That is for us. That's to keep us in line and say, hey, look at this.
I believe that the entire testing period is going to be 5 weeks.
I believe so too, easily.
Now, if that's the case, then they really have to start it on the 20th, like Toy said.
I agree.
The 24th is that 5th week.
I don't think they'll make the date. I really don't, because I think they just I've never seen them make any dates yet.
They technically. They were with the 5th of June was supposed to be the Evocati. So they technically have not made the date, which is why I'm thinking that they may very well make the 20th of July.
Maybe. I hope. So, but I'm still saying August. We all hope it was yesterday. But I agree. In the back of my mind, it's so important that this comes out right. August is fine. To me. I'd rather have it now. But the overall responsible community member that I am, I want it to look really good and be right at Gamescom. I don't want them to have shortcuts on it. I want it to go in there and just be like, aha, look at it now. That's what I want.
They're not showing 3.0 at Gamescom. They're showing the vertical slice of Squadron 42.
I know. They're not showing 3.0 at Game. They won't show 3.0 at Gamescom because that's what they want to have at Gamescom. They want to have it playable on the floor.
I don't think they'll show the vertical slice. No, I think they'll have something else made. I think they want to save the vertical slice for
CitizenCon. Yeah, they're going to hand us at CitizenCon with that. Guaranteed.
No way, because they're going to have the much, much, much bigger audience at Gamescom. They're going to drop Squadron 42 vertical slice on us at Gamescom.
No, they'll tease it.
Okay. I don't think they'll tease it. I think they'll have an actual fleshed out freaking marketing commercial for Squadron 42 at Gamescom.
Yes.
But not the vertical slice.
Vertical slice will not be at Gamescom. It'll be at Germany, where we go. That's where they'll have the vertical slice at. And Toy will be pissed because it'll just be the vertical slice he didn't get last year. And that's exactly where it'll be at. It'll be there. We'll see some shiny shit. They'll explain the roadmap of where we go from here. It's like, this is the roadmap that's going to be different come January. And they're going to go to Squadron 42 vertical slice. And hopefully they'll have a spring announcement for release of Squadron 42.
Let's talk for an hour about Spectrum again, right?
Yeah, it will. It'd be like, and you won't believe, guys, we're gonna have forums that look like Reddit, and we're gonna have amazing things. And voice comms are coming really soon, TM 2019, and it's gonna be awesome. And it's gonna do all that. But with all that aside, I'm fine with all that. I don't care as long as they can. The Delta Patcher comes in this year. That is my goal. The biggest thing is the Delta Patcher. Because we need to unchain the reasons we don't get fluid content, and the Delta Patcher is a huge wall why we don't get continual updates, and we need that in.
Why shit that are finished are not in the game.
That's right. And if they hold back on us after we have a Delta Patcher, then we'll know they're just sandbagging us. At that point, it's like,
then we can get the torches and pitchforks.
There we go. Be like, hey, I know you got that shit done, and you got a Delta Patcher, so I want it right now. So yeah, then we'll do that. We'll give
them a head start though. We'll use only flint and steel to light our torches.
Yeah.
Dang it! Give me that lighter fluid.
Yeah. Exactly. No, but I know they want the Delta Patcher as much as we do because it's crazy amount of data that we're pushing at like 30 to 40 gigs a build and all that through all these things. So
well, and I when we were doing the testing back for 2.6.3, they put out so many patches for that I ran out of data on my I hit my data cap.
Well, with the throttling of all the ISPs across the nation of 1 terabyte that they're doing now, I know, and that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a bigger and bigger issue. I mean, so
I paid more to get more.
Well, I'm sure many of us will, but we don't want to. Please don't make me pay my ISP for the game that hasn't come out yet. God, please.
So, but the Delta Patcher could resolve all of those issues.
Yes.
You know, a big change like 3.0 will still be big, but everything going from 3.0 to 3.9 should be relatively small compared.
Absolutely. All right, guys. One last time I'm going to tell you, go ahead and make sure you're getting into that awesome keyword raffle, ! SpaceBro in chat, so that way you can possibly win the $10 Star Citizen gift card at the end of this show. Now we're going to move on to questions. We have about 10 or 12 questions there. If you want to quickly get yours in, ! questions. We are not going to go too long on it because we're already pretty late for a lot of it. But and I still got to do a show after the show. Oh my gosh, it's an insanity here. All right, so first question is from Thrace, and as always, our guest will select the best question, and he will, by choosing whoever asks the best question, we will give them a piece of hanger flare. So that they can melt down for $5. So take notes.
I actually have to use my brain, man.
Yes, your brain is required for this one. So
that's not fair.
Well,
it's like that's old person abuse.
We like to pop that on our guest right there at the end. Like, oh yeah, you gotta choose one of these guys. Sorry.
Oh good God. All right.
Shoot. All right. First question's from Thrace Fulton. Thrace asks, in this week's ATV, we saw a crashed freelancer time-lapsed with a camp and NPCs walking around until the sunset, then fires and turning on lights, etc. What are your hopes and expectations for basic survival gameplay when you crash? Ooh. I expect not to survive.
Well, I mean, if there's the oxygen system's in and there's no oxygen on the planet, that's it. You're going to run out at some point.
But if it's a scenario like that, you would assume there's atmosphere and oxygen if there's NPCs.
Well, that's true.
In that case. So do you guys expect, because I know there was mention before of like food, different things of that nature that might come into play when you have to go into survival mode. I don't know if they're still talking about that internally at CIG or what type of basic things you'll need to live.
I'm hoping that survival mode will be something that kicks in as a kind of a logarithmic curve, that the further away from civilization or known routes or paths that you get, the more that it becomes a necessity, but still holds very close to real human survival needs. Like, for example, I can go 30 days without food, but I need water every day. I don't think that we should be forced to eat every 15 minutes just to keep our strength up. I think that would be stupid.
I hope not.
You don't want Minecraft? Come on.
Or Conan.
Right. But I do believe that your stamina will be directly connected to your intake of food. So if you have no food, just water, your stamina will be very, very slow to recover. It doesn't mean you can't do things. It just means you can't run or sprint unless you have the food to keep restoring the energy. So that's a cool thing. Also, if you're on a planet where you actually have to go out and find food while you're waiting for somebody to come rescue you, if you want to do things, or if you have to do things, you're fighting bandits, you're fighting bad fauna. You know, that thing that we saw like a couple weeks ago. Holy smokes, with them teeth and the tentacles and oh my god, that was kind of a scary thing. But if you're fighting these things, it's all a part. You know, if your ship has been compromised, you've crashed, you can't lock the doors because it's been compromised by the crash. That survival will come into it, not just food and water, but fighting off hostile fauna or flora. We don't know what if the plants will be like, the vines come in and start grabbing you or something.
Yeah, it just depends on the type of planet and everything, right?
Right, exactly. Or bandits. What if you were shot down and now you're held up in your freelancer, you're fighting off? Or if, like what we saw there, that to me seems more like settlements of
locals that took over a wreck and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. So I don't think that's us as the players. I think that eventually we'll have bases that we'll be able to set up.
Yeah, and I don't see most people crashing and wanting to play. What was it called? What was the Tom Hanks movie where he got stuck in the island with
Castaway?
Castaway.
I don't think most of us want to play Castaway because as beautiful a film that was, is boring as shit. And
I think that there will be instances. For example, the intrepid explorer finds a jump point that nobody else has discovered, goes into a solar system that's as of yet undiscovered. Imagine if you crash there. Yes, you could tell your friends where to look for the jump point, but they still have to go actively look for it to find it if they weren't there with you to begin with. So, I mean, it could take a while for people to rescue you. In that case, it won't be, like you said, it won't be Castaway. Be 5 in-game years, but it could be 5 in-game days.
Well, and it's also comes to a point, though, of fun to different people. Is it more fun to play those multiple hours of gameplay of trying to survive, waiting for somebody to come get you, maybe? Or is it more fun to say, hey, I'm just going to off myself and take the rep hit? So, I mean, it depends how severe dying is in the game.
Sure.
Really. Because some of those things, I'm like, I am not waiting for 3 game days to make this happen. I'll be like, boom, and like that's the end of that. So
but then again, your style of gameplay wouldn't probably put you in the position that you'd be that far away from civilization.
Yeah, you never know. You never know, right?
My guess is that the people who wouldn't mind that style of gameplay will be the people out there on the very, very fringes of the solar systems, the verse, so to speak. And so if they get caught in a situation where their ship is downed and they don't have anybody to come rescue them, if it takes 5 days, they're probably the people who love to play them survival games anyways. So it could just balance out. If you know that you take that chance of that happening, maybe you'll say, screw it, I'm going to be in space that I know where rescue will take,
moral of the story is register your flight plan with your bro.
There you go. Or register your flight plan with the UEE.
Yeah.
Like if you discover a jump point, they said you can sell that information to the UEE and make money. If you don't, then you risk not being found.
Yep, exactly. Right? So maybe after so many days, if you can survive like 10 days, they'll send a scout mission like the AI will. Or something like that would be cool too. Like, or there's a random chance of somebody finding you, but you have to survive at least 10 days or 1 week or something like that. That'd be kind of interesting gameplay too.
I want to be the person that finds that century ship. I think that would be cool.
Yep. All right. Phantom Killer asks, he says, pick your favorite large ship or capital, and which small ship do you plan to get to start the game with? Where are you going to start the game with? So what's your favorite large ship or capital ship? And then what do you plan to start the game with? So, Uber, how about you?
My favorite ship, large ship that I've seen so far, I mean, I'm really anticipating the Endeavor, but we've really not seen a lot of it. So, the Reclaimer.
Okay.
And but what ship am I going to start with?
Yeah, like for a small ship, where are you going to start the game with at launch, you think?
Live? Oh,
yeah,
probably live. my Aurora LN.
Okay. Toy?
You know, he was right on with the big ships. I would love to have a Endeavor, and then, but I also have a Reclaimer, so I'll probably be using that a lot at first anyways, because I expect a lot of people to be crashing, and I'm hoping I can cash in on some of that initial salvage stuff.
Yeah.
But my starter ship will definitely be my Freelancer. So.
Okay. I personally think that, I don't know, I like all the capitals. I have a Polaris, so I'm excited about that. But I think I would personally like to own either a Idris or a Jav, because I think a Jav would be the good one for me, because it'd be like, broadside them all! You know, it'd be great. And then... exactly. That'd be perfect. And... the small ship I plan to start game with, I think for starters, I might, just because the rep and all those things come into play, more than likely it will be maybe like an Aurora Titan or something, something very general like that that's not crazy expensive, because whatever the biggest ship they'll allow you to start with, that's probably what I would start with in that regard. Is be hopefully the Avenger Titan or something of that nature. Like that,
I think that reputation will kind of demand it. You won't be able to get jobs that could pay enough with the bigger ships, at least not not in the live launch. Like 3.0, I think it's a little out of kilter. They even give us starting money, but we will already have starting money because of that. What comes with our ships.
Yeah, because my concern is even if you had a hull C or a hull A and you wanted to be a hauler or something like that, that you wouldn't be able to fill the cargo of that with an NPC mission, because he's not going to trust you with that much cargo until you do a few small runs.
Yes. Hull C, no.
Yeah. So we'll see, though. No pun intended. Let's see. So Zocern says, so do you think that someone starting out with one ship, do you think someone starting out with one ship, if they be good to sign on to someone else's ship to get money to get a good ship? So basically, to translate, would it be better to start out with one ship by yourself, or maybe wait, sign on to the crew of someone else, and then build up money in game to buy a better ship to start out with, rather than trying to go all the perils yourself to begin with?
Well, like you keep referring to, you're not going to be getting big missions to start out with. Everybody's going to be starting with these small missions until you get a little more rep, get a little more trusted with the bigger missions. So, I mean, I think even if it's a two-person mission, you're going to be splitting first-person mission spoils for a while.
Yeah, which we haven't seen the overall aspects of that yet. Multiplayer mission. They even said co-op's not in yet for us to split a mission boards.
But see, that's why I kind of like my Freelancer, because it's a multi-person ship, but it's small, so it's not going to cost a lot to run.
We'll see when they give you that mission for that shoebox full of goods, and your pack. Look back at the Freelancer. There's one crate there, this big.
Well, so how I look at this is, if there is gameplay and missions, like we can all generate the contracts, for example, loading and unloading the ship. That does not require me to own a ship at all. In fact, I could stay at a port and load and unload a ship. And if I do that for the NPCs and for the players alike, eventually my reputation will be this person who is trusted with cargo, even precious cargo. I'm trusted. I unload and load fast. That could get me eventually enough money to buy a big cargo ship. And because I'm trusted with these people's cargo, I could get bigger cargo missions, right? Without ever having to have done a cargo mission before. Although you probably want to be at least practicing flying the larger ships and docking.
Maybe you go on part of a crew on a long haul, like if you take, I'm sure just like anything else, you'd rotate people in different positions in there doing different things. And if you come back with a rep as a trusted crew member, you know.
Well, it may also be that the contracts that you basically create within the game will be equal for AI or players. Like if you say, I'm hiring a person for this gunner position, a player could go, oh, I want that. And they could take that contract, and you have to pay the same whether you're paying an AI or a player. and depending on the skill levels. Well, if this person is an extraordinarily talented gunner or extremely talented engineer, he's going to be able to demand more money. And if the reputation precedes them, and everybody knows, oh yeah, that guy's awesome, then you would be willing to pay that because that guy's going to make sure that your ship's going to be
absolutely
right on the money. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on your play style, which is what, you can go out and be that lone wolf and do all those missions, and you can have fun doing that, or you can be a crew member only. And I don't think that it's going to impact you negatively either way. It's just going to be a different path.
Choose your path wisely. Let's see.
I want to spend my first. I'm going to start the hut ball season. That's what I'm going to make all my money doing. Is playing hut ball.
Playing the hut ball.
Oh yeah.
I hope they get that in the game soon. I hope it really works like the Star Wars Old Republic ball.
Let's see. It might. Next question's from Juicebox. Have they showed any previews of the tractor beam yet?
Not that I know of.
Way back when they had a concept of it, like when they but nothing even close to recent. Like when they first introduced the concepts of the Caterpillar, they showed a synthetic tractor beam that they showed how to move cargo from A to B, but it was like kind of like a drawn-on worm thing. It wasn't really anything that was of a final stage fashion at all. That was before they even had the whole thing white boxed out. So, yeah, that's the last concept of the tractor beam I've even seen at all. And so it's been quite a while. So that's an easy answer. Let's see. Copy. Link. I'm going to send you the copy of this spreadsheet so it's easier for you too.
Well, they got a whole tractor beam room inside the Caterpillar, so.
Yeah. All right. Make it easier to pick out a good question.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. All right. Thrace has another question. He asked, this one is for UberNerd. Well, it was kind of already asked at the same time by the other one. He said, what will your starting ship be? Career, and then what plan for career starting out at launch? So what's your overall plan of your ship, what you're going to do with it, those type of things when the game first launches?
Well, I still have a plan that I want to be able to take my Aurora LN, just start from the very, very basic. I didn't want to go from the MR just because I like those 2 extra hard points. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I want to start off in the most basic ship and just go from there, make enough money to be able to then mothball my Aurora LN or sell it even, and then go to the next size up and get bigger jobs and do more missions like that. Conversely, I'm still kind of toying with the idea of selling my ship right away, not having any ship, like not bringing. I have a ton of ships, but not bringing them into the game immediately, and doing jobs like being a longshoreman, right? Loading and unloading ships, seeing if I can exist in the verse without actually having to own a ship. So
that'd be very unique, and that would be interesting for people.
Yeah. So I mean, that the whole idea of that is, I mean, yes, in order to get into the game, you actually have to buy a ship. But can you exist in the game without a ship, and will it be fun? That's kind of what I'm thinking about. So
okay, good answer. Next question from Clockring Gaming says, "What do you think the surprise derelict that is going to be one of the derelicts inside 3.0 is? What ship do you think that's going to be that they alluded to in the ATV and Happy Hour?"
I still think it's going to be the Javelin.
Okay.
I don't know. They showed that alien master ship, so it might be one of those. What's that one? What was it called?
The Driller, the one that crashed. They had the scene for back when.
Yeah.
Where all the people were walking around the Reclaimer in that video, and they had the Driller that was crashed.
Yeah, I think that's
that's pretty much the divide right there. Most people think it's going to be a Jav, Bengal, or a driller.
I don't think it's going to be a Bengal. I don't think that they actually have the derelict state of the Bengal ready yet. I think they have the damaged states, but not the derelict state, because that's a huge ship.
I know. I don't know. For me, it's got to be a big ship, because they went into so much detail about you can see it from space. Like, it's so big. Even with that scaling video they did last week, right, of showing like, this is a crater, this is a dude by a crater, this is the dude at the crater zoomed out, this is the crater zoomed out to here, and it's only like a little tiny pip by the time you get out to space. You can't even see the dude. You see the crater as a pip.
Well, they did say that it would only be like 3 or 4 pixels.
Yeah,
from space,
but
so
most things you won't be able to see from space.
3 or 4 pixels is bigger than freaking.
It's huge when you get out into
380 meters long.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I would think that it is hard to say. It's definitely going to be a capital, no matter what. Yep. No doubt there, but I'm not going to take a stab at that one, because I think it's going to be something cool. I really hope it's a Javelin. The only reason why is because I think the driller, they're not going to have the interior effects. I think they'll just have that.
I don't think that. I agree.
It'd be like the whale skeleton, where it's just the rib cage or the bones. And like, I want something where I can see where all the consoles go and kind of go through the interior and stuff. And I don't think I think they won't cop out if it's an alien one, but I don't think you'll get the cool aesthetics of the interior at all.
I agree. When I look at because I look at the derelict states that they've been working on for these ships, and it is as much a task to build out the derelict state as it is to build the finished live state. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Because all the effects and all that stuff.
I mean, so to think they've done that with the Javelin, and then they have all this polish that's going into it, but to think, gosh, really, I don't know that they would have had time to do the derelict state of any of the Vandal ships yet. Even though we saw that those ribs of the driller, we're assuming that's the driller, but even though we saw the ribs of that, it was in a sandstorm. It was not very clear. Was it derelict at the time? I mean, at least the state that you saw it in, it was not like in a sunny day and looking down on a rusted hulk or anything.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think it's the Javelin. So
we'll just have to see, hopefully. Hopefully. All right, Thrace asks another question. He says, this new Cyclone buggy sounds interesting with up to 5 different options. Do they mean variants? Are we thinking it's going to be fast and agile, open cockpit, off-roader, kind of like a sand rail? So give us your impressions, what you think about the Cyclone that they've mentioned, but we haven't seen, that we're going to see the concept of next week.
I could just guess. I mean, they've given so little to us on that, other than, okay, so the name that they put out was Tumbril, right?
Tumbril was on the board. Yeah.
Right. So but they also put it on Twitter. So, and then somebody looked up, what does Tumbril mean, right?
Yeah.
Well, Tumbril is a 2-wheeled cart, right? But also it is a ammo cart. It was a weapons and ammo moving cart. That's what a Tumbril was for.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that it could be, I don't believe it's going to be a 2-wheeled cart, as they said, a buggy, and I don't believe it's going to be a 2-wheeled vehicle, but I think it could very well be a 4-wheeled vehicle, and the variants they have are from civilian all the way to military with a big old freaking gun on the back, right?
I can see that.
So a box, so you have, sometimes you have an open Jeep, and then you have, you guys know, like, look at all the variants you have in Humvees, right?
Yep.
So the ambulance Humvee has a big old box on the back where they can put people in the back and stretchers and stuff like that. They can have all that kind of stuff. There are tons of variants of the Humvee. Open vehicle, vehicle that is a closed vehicle. That, so that in of itself, I keep thinking I think a futuristic Humvee. That's the Cyclone. That's my, because the whole buggy hint was kind of gave me that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not fully defined on what the Cyclone is versus the Tumbler or all that stuff. I don't know for sure. So I'm just waiting to see what happens next week.
Right.
That's what I'm doing. Anything, Toy?
I'm not sure, but if it's going to be anything, I think it's going to be like a Gator, one of those little cargo transporter.
4-wheel drive, hot rod, gray cat.
But yeah, but it's not like it won't have a closed cockpit. Definitely, it'll be an open cockpit, but a bigger buggy.
A bigger buggy,
but
wheels,
more of a
or wheels or hover
or tracks.
I don't know
think because
tracks. Not yet.
Not yeah. I know they're gonna have tanks eventually, but I don't know.
Well, because when I was thinking, I still think that we need a mule. From Firefly, right? We need a mule. But like something that could carry 5 or 6 people, or one person and lots of cargo or something like that, but open, right? No canopy, no cover, just an open kind of like a floating platform that you can, like the mule was, right?
Yeah.
So I'd like that. I think they need to have something like that, but I don't think that this is that. Although I do think, like I said, this is going to be the Humvee of because how many variants do they have? 5 different options. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
From $45 to $70.
It'll be interesting to see what they do.
So, open Jeep to closed, armored Humvee military. So the $70 one could be the armored version, and the $45 one could be the open, Jeep version.
Yep.
Right. So
empty flatbed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something like that, right? Because we're going to be on planets, and they know that we're going to need to carry stuff, and the only vehicle that we have to carry stuff right now is the Ursa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very tiny.
Well, you can carry a 6-pack on your Dragonfly, but that's about it. Like the rest of you. That's about it.
Well, that is important.
It is.
I want to see the backseat gunner on the Dragonfly holding the box in his hand while he's sitting on the seat.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go a little more rapid through these last ones here.
Okay, good.
All right. We got Thrace asked, he says, RE Insurance, do you think paying the fee will actually allow you to reduce the replacement timer or eliminate it like it does now? And second part, or will there be limits based on the economy, rarity, location that cannot be worked around an established minimum?
There will be shortage. There will be limits based on the economy, especially if like a lot of people are wrecking a certain type of ship, or if like not in 3.0.
No.
But when the game goes live, yeah, exactly. Yes. So you can pay to get it faster. So if you pay it right away, you'll get it within 10 to 15 minutes versus 2 to 3 days.
Yep.
If there's a shortage, or pirate blockade or Vandal took over a system or whatever it is, it could be a much longer wait for a ship depending on where the factories are. So, and we know that the factories are all in different solar systems. So some ships, yes, you'll get it right away. Maybe there will be no problem. Other ships, maybe something else will be stopping it. I mean, It really depends.
Okay. I'll go with that. Yeah, and they're definitely doing it helps eliminate the timer to get stuff faster. That's right now in 3.0 anyway, the first iteration. Where that holds or they modify it, who knows? Yeah. Next one was Kamikaze says, do you think the insurance will help cover the cost of repair? Should you be rewarded for saving the ship and not saying screw it and let it pop, I'll just get a new one?
No, I don't think that insurance would cover the cost of the repair, but I think the repair will be cheaper than what you would pay to get the ship recovered. And remember, even when the ship comes back to you, it won't include, like, if you fired all your missiles, then your ship got destroyed and you pay for it to come back, your ship will not come preloaded with missiles. You'll have to go buy missiles. That's changing in this one, right?
Yeah, so you'll lose all your interior aspects of your ship anyway. Right. So the more customization you have, the probably less likely you'd want to just let that ship go.
Yeah, repairing it is always going to be the cheaper option.
Yeah. Let's see. Thelda says, do you think that it's bad PR to allow a lapsed insurance ship to be non-recoverable? Will this deter a certain player base who doesn't want to be involved in such a risk? And should the premiums be a higher percentage for a new vessel?
Well, honestly, I don't think they're. I mean, it's if you ignore all the in-game mail and all the notifications
and all the warnings,
insurance and all the warnings, that
and all the
undocks,
that every time you undock, you do not have insurance on the ship because they're going to have
right.
That
Exactly,
too.
It's going to be a big red banner when you undock. This ship is uninsured.
Yeah.
So if you forget, even with all of that, then
suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, exactly.
And they said that the cost of insurance wasn't going to be so bad that it was going to impede anything.
Plus, I did the math. Okay, 3 months of insurance. Remember, they said that only counts down when you're in the game. If you play for 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's 3 years of gameplay before you have to buy new insurance. So I wouldn't really worry about it. It's not going to be a big issue.
Yep.
Unless you're like me, who's a nutcase, and then that's okay because I got LTI and I can remember to insure all my weapons and upgrades.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the last part of the question, should premiums be higher a new vessel? I think it's exactly based on the cost of the vessel, like they said.
Right.
It's not whether it's brand new out of the box or not. Next question from Thodos again says, they mentioned that the fee for reclaiming your ship would be waived after 24 hours. Should this be higher for the largest ships in the game? And how long would you be willing to wait for replacing a capital size ship? I think it should be longer for a cap, for sure. I mean, I think it should be longer than 24 hours. I think they should scale it based on the ship. Because this is the problem. If it deteriorates at the cost of replacement at 1,000 per hour, right? Like they said, 24K ain't shit to have an Idris replaced. Because most people would pay that. So I think they're just mostly talking about the ships in the game now. Yep. And I think we're going to be looking at multiple days, if not weeks. Yeah, small ships for the short term, but caps and stuff I think have to be long term. Right.
So the fee will be waived after 24 hours, but for only they didn't say for all ships, and actually it may be for all ships, but only in 3.0.
Yeah, because they're testing.
So this is just everything is subject to change. So they're just testing. And they have talked before about how, and they even said in Happy Hour that they want there to, it might tack on more time the more, if you wreck a lot and it's not like justifiable. I mean, there may be ways for them to track that. There are ways for them to track that. But if it's determined to be not justifiable, meaning you're not doing a mission, you just keep, running into the sun, it may take a lot longer than 24 hours to replace your ship.
Yeah,
you may be like, well, I guess I won't run into the sun again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but that's kind of what they're trying to prevent, but they're not trying to hurt the people who legitimately have been doing a mission and they accidentally, or they get just, overrun by pirates or something, So absolutely. They want to give the people who are doing legitimate gameplay a chance to really recover that quickly. And then they want to also discourage the people who are ramming their ships into the sun.
And also everybody should keep in mind that this is just a concept test. Yep. This is they're just seeing if this is going to be this system is going to work. They might come up with a better system. They might trash it like they did the golf swing and come up with something totally different later on. It's just a first test. So
well, didn't you hear what they said about the golf swing today?
Yeah, that it's a basic thing, and
that it was just a very basic scanner.
Yeah,
it was only one type of scanner too.
And it should.
That there was all kinds of scanners that you can get for the Hornet, and this was only one of the most basic that you can get. So it's like the lowest of the level scanners that you can get. And I think that's okay as long as they have multiple iterations of different types of scanners. Having a basic golf swing scanner for the most basic, I'm good with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I never had a problem with it. From the day I saw it, I thought the same thing. I'm like, they need an initial scanner, so why not have a little?
Because then you'd have people bitching, "Oh, I'm in a Hornet and I can't scan anything." Because that's what they bitch if they didn't have a basic type of scanner for that, right?
And remember, that's a directed scanner versus the passive scanners that we have right now. Those passive scanners are not going anywhere. You will still have passive scanners that will pick up ships, making lots of disturbance in your area. But the active scanner means that you can scan further than your passive scanners can, but you have to pick the direction, you have to do the golf swing, and you have to wait for the results to come back. Maybe you'll see something, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll give yourself away, your position away, because you overpowered your scan or something like that. So, I mean, it adds to the level of gameplay, and I think that even the golf swing scanner is okay. So
I agree. Val has a question. He says, how will the insurance affect orgs and loaning ships for org use? So they talked before that people would be able to not only loan each other ships, but they could loan their organization ships, right? For operation type stuff. Or how would it affect the insurance? So like if you loan another entity or person a ship and you have insurance on it and they get it blown up, how do you think that will impact all that?
I think eventually they'll have an organization built into the game where you can like set a certain ship of yours to be part of the organization that can be loaned out. And I'm sure they'll have in there some kind of setting that, okay, don't loan the ship out if it doesn't have insurance. And if the guild has money, the money automatically buys the insurance for it.
All orgs will be able to have dues. Those dues will go to cover org ship insurance costs and other repair costs and stuff like that. So it's not going to be like you can't cover the costs, and it's not going to be like you're going to have to rely on the goodwill of the people in your org to donate the money. No. You want to be a part of this org, you're going to join. When you join the org, those dues are automatically taken. You don't get a choice. If you don't want those dues taken, leave the org.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there it is.
But yeah, with the loaner aspect, I would say that they're really going to cover you initially on that. It's probably going to be the same thing, though. Like if your buddy takes your ship and you haven't insured, you'll get the insurance back or you get the ship back yourself. But let's say you loan the same guy the ship and he blows it up again, you have to remember you're going to incur those insurance costs. Yep. So unless they're willing to cover those things for you, unless your buddy or your org says, hey, we'll cover that. I know this is the 5th Hornet we've blown up today of yours, but we'll cover that insurance cost. Unless they're willing to do that, you'll probably think twice about loaning your org or anybody else the ship.
There you are.
Pretty straightforward there. Guns and Glue. He asks, in today's stream, Star Citizen said that a ship with an unofficial name will drop off your new ship after the insurance claim is filed. Said that a ship with an unofficial name will drop off your new ship after the insurance claim is filed. What do you think the ship will be, or do you think that's a temp ship at a launch ship will carry left? Oh, I see what you're saying. From left to the Hell series. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what type of ship will do it there.
Maybe you'll just have to rename it or something and call it, like your first ship that you had to replace was called the Hellfire. The second ship is called the Hellfire 2.
Yeah.
Third ship is Daughter of the Hellfire. Fourth ship is...
And I don't know what ship will drop off your ship. I think sometimes it'll be like a valet where an NPC will just drive said ship to your location. In the greater scheme of things, like if you have to wait because of stuff, maybe they'll bring it in there on a... ship, land it, and then it's your ship or something like that. I think that's the direction they'll go with it. But
okay. Honestly, I said it earlier, but I think that they will have big, huge. You know how we have car carriers that bring cars to dealerships. I think they'll have the same kind of thing for ships, except for ships that are like really big. Javelin or an Idris or anything 200 meters or longer will have to be delivered by a crew. A full crew will have to deliver it. And no matter what, even if you were able to pay the full price to have it replaced, it still might take 3 to 4 days to have a ship that size replaced. So I don't think that even if you pay the full price, it won't come right away. They will, big capital size ships, Endeavor size ships, they will be delivered by a full crew, to deliver it to your location. And so that's kind of how I think about that.
Yep.
And then car carriers for the small ones.
There you go. Bang Chow asks, he says, what is your definition of tumbrel And who do you think the MVP amongst who is the MVP amongst the CIG devs? So who's your favorite CIG dev?
Huh. Well, actually, I like Aaron Roberts. He's my favorite. I really, when he's talking about things, not only is he passionate about it, not only is he knowledgeable about it, but I understand from a project management aspect when he talks. He's very, very project management oriented, and I really like that. He's very concise with the way he speaks as well. So I like Aaron Roberts. So,
Toy?
And I've met a few, but I haven't met nearly enough to make that choice. But of the ones I've met, I don't know. It's a toss-up because, I met Chris Roberts, and he's awesome. But I just don't know. I mean, it's so tough.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I can pick Jay Lee because I don't know if he is what you'd classify as a developer or not. I know he is a brilliant artist, and he does develop the art and the concepts of stuff. So from that point, I do look at him as a dev, but he's not a programming or technical dev. So I say if you're including artists and stuff, obviously Jay Lee is my favorite because he's Jay Lee, and he's always here hanging out with us, and he gives us more love and respect than any other dev has.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and he's awesome in general. But if we're not including him, I'd probably have to say Tony Z because he's the only person crazy enough to go down the complete rabbit hole of any subject that I've seen and not stop.
When I was at CitizenCon and stuff, I had the pleasure of hanging out with Brian Chambers for quite a while. And he talked about a lot of stuff, and he's really awesome guy too. So I really like Brian.
They're all amazing. Right?
It's hard to pick
hard to point out.
That's why I said it's so hard.
Who's the MVP? I don't think that any one of them. I think they all are the MVP. These guys are putting so much into this game, and they are.
I think you got to look at each week as a game, like in baseball, and each week's going to have its own MVP because a different member of the team steps up and makes it happen, on different types of projects. So
that's right.
You can tell they're a team, and they'll be like, this guy thought of this, or this guy developed this, or this guy brought up this piece. And it's like, I think everybody shines in their own moment. When there's a bug that needs blocked, Mark steps up. When there's a concept that needs done, Jay Lee fucking knocks it out of the park, like the tattoos and stuff.
Kidding, yeah.
So I think it's really a team effort. And afterwards, we're all going to Disney World together. It's going to be amazing. So let's do it. Let's see. Next question's from Veclor. He says, will we be able to refuel our ships with spare fuel cargo tanks or transfer fuel directly from ship to ship, such as the Nox, since it has no hydro scoop?
Not, at least there is no ship-to-ship refueling
that we know of yet.
3.0.
Yeah.
3.2, it's scheduled to come in 3.2. For the Nox, you won't have to refuel the Nox. It will recover its boost over time, just like all the other ships. It doesn't have quantum fuel, so there's no need to refuel that. That's the only kind of fuel that I know of right now that doesn't self-refuel.
Yeah, I don't see me going out of my Hornet and siphoning it out.
Right. As for your other ships, I don't think that they're going to have that refueling. Just make sure you don't run out of fuel. I don't believe there is any way to get refueled without going to a refueling station until 3.2.
Or having a refueling ship that comes to you through a beacon thing, or somebody will have to come to you.
Right, but still, that ship-to-ship refueling mechanic is not scheduled to be finished until 3.2.
Yeah. So, down the road.
There you are.
Down the road.
Yeah.
I wonder what a gas can would look like in Star Citizen. Like if you
maybe just a little box with a little thing that comes out the top. Right?
Yeah, maybe. I have no idea. I was like, that'd be cool. It's like, oh man, I gotta go down the road to the gas station to go get it.
I was just gonna say. Go ahead. You finish, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in.
Pellets. I mean, for emergency fuel, pellets, because it could just be the hydrocarbons with and then you just add have a bottle of alcohol and the pellets, and they expand into much more volume. Maybe that's something like that.
What I was thinking is, how you go to the refueling station now, and those little auto robots come over to your ship and do the little scan and stuff. I'm thinking one like that, but in the shape of a little, pill-shaped tank.
Sure.
It comes over to your ship and fills it up. Pretty much same thing. It scans your ship. Oh yeah, you need fuel, and gives you the right amount of fuel, and then flies back to the Starfarer or wherever your fuel tanker is.
Like a drone refueler.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
I'm hoping that they will give us different kind of attachments for our smaller ships that will give us greater range. Extended fuel tanks.
Yeah.
So.
Well, those are coming eventually. I mean, they've already have some of those ships that say they have it. I think the Endeavor has a package for extended fuel tanks too, right?
Yeah, I think you can remove certain aspects and put the bigger fuel tanks on if you want something like that on the Master Pack. Last question from Bang Chow. What would be an acceptable time frame for a freshly made wreckage to persist in the PU before it disappears on its own? And would you consider a salvaging profession indispensable or just niche work?
Well, first, I think it's indispensable. Look at the Reclaimer. How much fun is that going to be with your buds, especially because no two wrecks are going to be exactly alike or definitely not in the same place. So you're never going to be in the same location. So even if the wreck looks somewhat similar to another wreck you've been to before, you're going to be on overlooking different vistas. It's going to be in a different location, or you may be out in space. I mean, it's all going to be different. Mm-hmm. And I think, as I was talking about the whole survival mechanic, a logarithmic curve for timer, right? If it's closer to where lots of people are, it shouldn't despawn. It should stay. It should persist. And it should be that if the UEE goes, God, that's a danger, the AI should be able to look at Rex and go, ooh, that's dangerous. Mm-hmm. Make a contract for salvage, right? So they will automatically, or should automatically. Now, if you crash way off on the far side of some moon, way out in the very edge of space, it shouldn't last for too long, but it shouldn't go away too quickly either.
But why not? Because I mean, that's what these beacons are for, and selling information. So if you come across one, you drop your beacon and go sell the information. It should stay there as long enough for somebody to get out there, and sell your information.
Yeah, so maybe the ships because remember, they did say that ships will persist. Now, if you crash a ship, does that mean that the wreckage will just remain until somebody comes and cleans it up?
I don't know.
That's a lot of data.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do that, because Eve had a problem where they had to have the great cleanup after so much debris and wrecks and stuff. It just couldn't do it.
But they didn't have salvage either in Eve, though. Not like they do in Star.
Not that time, but it was the cans that persisted, right? When they anchored all the cans in space, because those had to last so long.
But look at this. Remember, this is going to be a 10-to-1. 10 NPCs to 1 player. Yeah. So a player wrecks his ship, right?
NPC eventually come along anyway. Exactly. That would probably do it.
So you got to beat the NPC out there to salvage a ship.
So maybe the despawn mechanic, it would technically be a despawn, but you'd get the appearance that an NPC would come after so long and do it if no player did.
Exactly.
Well, let's just say that because these planets and moons and all these places are big, I kind of think about, they're always talking about, well, how long will your ship stay if you log out, but your ship is in there and there's an NPC or another player close by, even if they don't see your ship's not going to log out until they go away or come and get on your ship, right? So the thing is that maybe it's the same for wrecks, but they can even be further away. So if somebody is orbiting the moon where you've wrecked, and that person leaves, but another person shows up, your wreck won't despawn. Your wreck won't despawn until there are no NPCs or players over where the wreck is, because they may not be able to see it, and if they're not actively scanning for it, they can't see it, but it shouldn't despawn until there is no other activity to keep it there.
I don't know. I still like my idea of making it a mission, and putting it on the mission board, and basically if a player doesn't get to it within a certain amount of time, an NPC mission picks it up and goes and does it. And once, the NPC finishes up, say it was, mission claimed by NPC or finished by NPC, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Maybe a mission will be automatically generated when an insurance claim is made.
It's a good idea.
Yep.
So.
Not bad. All right. Well, I will leave
Very
it to
crafty.
I will leave it to UberNerd to choose which one of those questions was his favorite or he thought was the best.
You bastards!
Yeah, exactly. And while he's doing that, we're going to get ready to pull this raffle. So make sure, guys, you are in the raffle. It's !SpaceBro in chat. !SpaceBro in chat in order to get into the raffle for a $10 gift card. And then following the show, we will do a small after show for you to hang out, talk about things and stuff, maybe play a game or two before we run off for the night. And hang out a little bit. So if you want to join in for that, that'd be awesome. All right. Let's get in there, guys. Make sure you're also following everyone in chat, both me, Toy, and Mr. UberNerd, of course, to qualify for the $10 gift card. And just make that happen. All right, buddy. What do you think there, UberNerd? What's your favorite one?
I like the one about the cyclone buggy. I just because I'm so like fascinated about what it could be, and I'm a big theory crafter. So
we're looking at Thrace there.
Yep, Thrace Fulton.
All right, Thrace. Good question. He hammered a lot in there trying to get that, so he knocked it out.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. All right. And let's go over to the keyword raffle real quick, guys. We're going to pull this thing for you. Right here. Well, I'm UberNerd. You're going to bed after this, aren't you?
Yeah, probably. Well, not right away.
Not right away. Yeah, George wants to know if you want to play PUBG.
I don't have PUBG.
See? I told you he didn't have PUBG. All right, so everybody's in there. Do that thing. We're going to go ahead. Yeah, here's a reward. Timeout.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and seal this one down. And then we're going to go ahead and pull our winner out of this one. Good luck to everybody. And it looks like it's Tonetti is going to be the winner there. Check to see if Tonetti is following both Toy and UberNerd.
All right, I'm going to check right now.
All right. Toy, you remember how to do that thing with the stuff?
I do, but I'm not seeing him on chat right now. Do you see him on chat?
I don't know if he is or not. I'm looking. He's got that script thing that supposedly tells you everybody who they're following and stuff.
Right.
MT, right? MT?
MTONETTI.
Let's see if that works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's been following.
Yep, has been following UberNerd for 2 hours, 28 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Let's try him.
Yep, 2 years. 2 months, 2 days. Yeah, he's been after you for a while. And we know he's good here because he's also a sub. So, excellent. So, Tonetti, you are the wiener.
Excellent.
Good job, buddy. Thank you so much for contributing there. And, guys, when we come back, we'll be might play a little PUBG or something, but we'll be talking about some of the other things coming up. We're still taking donations, obviously, to get us over to CitizenCon because we're doing that. We're also looking for some more good subs. We're really close to unlocking another LTI Nox Brushed White limited edition for you guys to give away. So make sure and contribute all that. And we'll be back with the SpaceBro Show again next Friday at 10 p.m. CST, all that jazz. I'll be streaming tomorrow, for those of you who aren't going to hang around. Sometime in the middle of the afternoon, we'll probably come back by noon tomorrow and jam out and do some things. And then, UberNerd, why don't you tell them when you're going to be on next and where they can find you and all that other cool jazz?
All right. Well, I am, of course, you can find me on twitch.tv/Uber_nerd. And I will be streaming tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. And I'll stream from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. If I can get enough people who have constellations, we'll do a constellation demolition derby. All last month we were doing caterpillar demolition derbies. That was a lot of fun. And then so this month we'll be doing the constellation demo derby, and you can win a prize if you win. So it'll be hanger flare. but it's still fun, you know. So there you are. PST time it is, so 9 a.m. PST to 1 p.m. PST.
Nice.
And,
Right.
Yeah.
And Toy, when are you going to be strumming next?
I don't know. Maybe tomorrow when you're not streaming, I'll get on. I've been gone. I got to try and catch up on a couple streams. So
There you go. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
and they got climbing and Conan. So.
Yeah, exactly. I know you've been itching to present that, you know.
Yep.
So you can use your dong as a grip, I heard, too, in that now. So it's a special handhold slider grip.
That's how I gain my stamina back.
Yeah,
I sit
it's
there and
balance.
hold on.
It's all about balance. So don't want to throw your back out or anything. All right, guys. So with that, again, thank you so much for being here. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. You'll see the stream go off and then come back up. So if you want to rejoin us for some more cool stuff, some raffles, giveaways, we will get the bot rolling on that. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. So again, thank you for being here, guys. There you go.